There we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I am Alex, and I am joined by an incredible group of people. For the first time, well, at least the group of us have gotten together after Hogwarts Legacy has released. So we kind of just want to do this stream without limitations. Just talk about, we won't focus on anything necessarily too specific, but I do just want to talk about what we feel of the game, kind of a post-launch review. So welcoming in everybody, all their links are in the description. You've met them all before multiple times, and we'll probably just start actually with going down the line. And gentlemen, just give your general thoughts on what you thought of the game for those maybe that didn't hear it before.
Okay, everybody. I am Sly from the Aura Division, and I believe all of us have beat the game. And in a nutshell, my grade for the game is an 8 out of 10. There's a lot of things I enjoyed about the game, a lot of things I didn't enjoy about the game, but luckily the good things surpassed the bad things. So, and I'm sure we're going to talk about everything in detail as we progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all going to echo quite similar sentiments about the game. I'm Connor, Hogwarts Legacy Explained. Again with Sly, I've got 100% now. The last little bits are a bit of a chore. I'm glad I've done it now. But yeah, 8 out of 10. A lot of good fun things, a lot of the exploration, the combat, and we'll get into more. And yeah, this obviously I think we'll get into a few things that can be improved on. But for a first big title game by Avalanche, I think it's a solid attempt. And yeah, really enjoyed just going back into the Wizarding World, because yeah, I'm like the Harry Potter games guy in this community. Sort of like the expertise of all that. So yeah, jumping back into a video game, exploring Hogwarts was brilliant.
Awesome. Well, I'm Ben Snow. Sorry, guys, I'm a little bit slow and different today because I'm a bit I have some sore throat. But yeah, I haven't beaten the game, so today's gonna be fun. But I have been spoiled as well with different tweets and seeing things. So, but I don't really give like scores or anything. I'm having so much fun with Hogwarts Legacy. There's some things that are like, okay, I wish they were different, but then there are others that outweigh that completely. And, it's a great balance for me. So I'm loving my experience so far. I'm getting lost. That's why I'm just being slow. Because there's so much in the world that just grabs my attention. I just want to explore that immediately. And I do that. And that's why I haven't beaten the game yet. But yeah, I'm loving it.
Hello, I'm Mash Marauder, and Harry Potter in general content creator, but I've been covering the game a lot, obviously, recently. I've completed it this week. I haven't done a few of the side missions. I think I'm probably going to be the most argumentative tonight, because I loved this game. Genuinely, I have very little bad to say about this game, and I've heard a few of what a few people are saying, but I disagree with some of it, and I genuinely love the game, and I'm probably giving it a sort of a high 9.5.
What's up? I'm Nate. I run a channel called The Nightly Nerd. Mostly Hogwarts Legacy content right now, but we're kind of shifting towards more just video game news or video game content in general over the next couple months. I have slowly become kind of the villain in the Hogwarts Legacy community, because I think I'm the lowest on Hogwarts Legacy, and there's going to be some cool videos next week. But I think I'm looking at it more of an objective standpoint of just as a video game, and that standpoint brings it down for me. But as an overall stepping stone for the Wizarding world, it's a great first step. I think the next game they're probably going to knock out of the park, but it just needs some video game things that are changed.
Hey, my channel is Lamorak. For me with the game, I don't think it's what's there that is the issue. I think what's there is good. I think it's what's not there that is sort of the issue. I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that they could have done that wouldn't have taken as much effort as some of the stuff they did put in, that would have been made drastic improvements to just the overall experience. I think there was too much of a focus maybe on it. It's weird because there's a massive focus on the open world RPG sort of side of the game, and not a lot of focus on the the student experience, and that's sort of the initial feeling you get. But then even if you look at the open world RPG stuff, it's like still feels like it's lacking, but I still love the experience. It's almost like I love the game in spite of itself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I loved it. I think it needs a lot of work, and whether it be future updates and DLCs or a next game, I think it needs a lot of features that just should have been there and weren't.
I like the group we have. It seems like we're pretty split, and I love it. Okay, well let's get right into kind of controversial things. Let's go down the line again. I'm gonna try to shift everybody, and there's no way this is gonna
Oh.
go right. I want everybody to tell me their favorite, the best thing they think the game has, and the worst. And you can expand upon whichever, depending on if you're a more pessimistic person in life or optimistic. So yeah, and I'll go last. So I just want to hear it.
Okay. The best. So this is a good question. So the best is easily the environments. 100%. The fact that exploring the castle and existing in the castle is interesting, even though there's literally nothing to do once you complete the quest, is incredible. Like that shows how good the environments really are. And that does extend to a degree. That extends to Hogsmeade, that extends to the terrain. I think the castles and the environment could have been better, but generally the environment's just really strong. The weakest thing, I think the weakest thing is just sort of the non-quest interactions. Like if you with enemy encounters, like they're all sort of the same. They're like little groups or like camps. There's no variety there. And then the castle, there's nothing to do. So like once you complete the quest, it just sort of feels like the world slowly dies as the game progresses. And the world just sort of shuts down. There's nothing left to do. I think there should be little interactions, but not just like a teacup, but like something meaningful. Even if that is sitting or like eating in the Great Hall, I think the lack of things to do outside of quests in the castle and the world is probably the weakest point from my perspective.
Okay, that's such a loaded question, and I'm gonna try to answer it in less than 10 minutes. Okay, so best aspect of the game. I'm very much torn between what Lemurek said, the environment and the soundtrack. I mean, the soundtrack was out of this world. I mean, I got emotional throughout the entire game because it was amazing. But I would say that the environment would come above it. So the environment would be the first one for me. The Hogwarts, for me, I absolutely loved the castle. I loved going just roaming this massive structure with so many secrets and so many little lore tidbits, amount the amount of details that they've added with things from the books and had nods to the books and the movies as well. Absolutely love that. And the detail of the castle, just getting lost in the castle, to me it was absolutely amazing. The Scotland Highlands, that was absolutely phenomenal. I wish the map was a little bit bigger. I'm not gonna lie. I wish the Forbidden Forest wasn't just like a small patch on the map. I wish it was a lot bigger than that. But like just inside of the Forbidden Forest, probably my favorite place in the entire map. Right, the lighting, the mood, the soundtrack, the fact that you're walking around and all of a sudden you get jumped because of something. So and the little hamlets, if you spend the time and you go to the hamlets and talk to the people, as well, they all have their little lore bits and stories and whatnot. So I really really enjoy the world. I really really enjoyed the environment. Well done there. Um, what I did not like about the game, and some of you I've spoken to in the background, might get fired for this, but I really, really, really disliked the main quest. The story, that is, not the actual trials, the trials, the mechanics of the trials. I actually really enjoyed that. But the quest itself, the story felt very superficial. It felt I couldn't make a connection to the main story, if you will. Um, there's a lot of plot holes in the main story, like who we are, where we come from, why we're going to Hogwarts as a fifth year. Why are our parents allowing us to go to Hogwarts as a fifth year? Like all of these things were not answered by anything. And the fact that we didn't feel sort of special, or I didn't feel an attachment to the story other than, hey, you know how to yield and see ancient magic, and so you're gonna become a keeper now. I'm sure we're gonna delve into more details about that, but in a nutshell, primarily, yeah, that's why.
So as a favourite thing, it's like a very personal thing. I did make a video on this the other day about just the nostalgia it provokes, like from the older games and the appreciation. It made me want to go back and play them older games. Just every little thing. It just comes from exploring the world. This fully realised Hogwarts, seeing where we came from in the PS1 days, and just the improvements we've come upon. Yeah, just exploring the castle, the little unique areas, when you're walking from Central Hall to the Viaduct and the guy's playing his little lute and the music starts playing. The incredible things, the little things, like I said, when you got into the Gringotts cart, it just instantly took me back to, like, as a 7-year-old playing Philosopher's Stone and the ugly graphics in Gringotts there, things like that. Yeah, just I think the open world, the Hogsmeade, all the little hamlets, especially Hogwarts, just roaming around the Scottish Highlands. And we knew that was going to be probably the strongest and best part. We discussed that countless times on these streams. That was going to be the best, or the most focused on part, and I think it was in the game. As a worst thing, I do think it's just, I talked about it yesterday, like a morality. I know we weren't going to have one, but I just feel the game needed one. There are choices in the games. We'll get into them, I guess, in the side quests, in the main quests. And any choice you make in the game doesn't feel like it has any impact on the world, any sort of impact in the story. We'll talk about the ending. And yeah, just little impact in all your choices. No matter what you do, you're going to end up at one point, one road. And you talked about, Alex, thinking your review video about that, about how no matter what you do in this game, you're shoved into this one ending.
Yeah,
and yeah,
very Life is Strange.
It just doesn't feel natural if you take a certain point and you're awarded a hero when you could be literally one of the worst people in the world, be Voldemort almost, and you can be Professor Black's and Professor Weasley's favourite at the end, sort of thing. So yeah, I just really felt it needed a morality system. Just the choices in the game, it just didn't work out in my opinion.
All right, am I up? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's tricky. It's very tricky to say what is truly the best thing because it's so many things. I'll say I totally agree. Yes, the environments are just phenomenal. The castle, the overland, and I agree with the Forbidden Forest. It's just wow. It's one of my most favorite spots in the entire map for sure. And actually, but I think for me, my favorite part is the story actually, because to me, it did work pretty well. I like the ride that the story takes us, and I like the little stories like with Sebastian. Again, I didn't finish the game fully, so I don't know much things, but from the first moment, the story that's what made me care about the castle, the whatever activities are in that castle, or the story made me care, and that carries me through. Even I'm doing exploring, but then I want to figure out that mystery. I want to follow the main storyline. So yeah, it's the best part for me because it carries me. It makes me care about things. And even the elements, I like how they introduce the RPG elements of the game. They don't just give them to you. It's just, okay, you have talents, whatever. Or you can upgrade your gear. No, it's narratively driven. They first introduce that. They explain why you should use that. And there's some explanation of that. So it's blended very well. And it because sometimes I would get in some games when I would start them and they throw so many mechanics at me, I would get lost. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to? Why am I supposed to be upgrading this now already? So here it is very, it explains to you. It's really choose it for you. The worst thing, I think, but it's very, it's not like the worst. Like I just hate it, but I felt myself that the classes and yeah, the classes felt not as classes really. I couldn't like I would there were great cinematics, but I felt myself like even with herbology, we just kind of pulled the mandrake again. I just found myself like, okay, is that the only thing that people do? Of course, we planted a little bit more, but it just felt like it's a check. It was a check mark for the classes that we took. It was a check mark and we moved on. And it's not, and I feel like on one hand, it is a school, and I feel like classes should take more center stage. But on the other hand, I'm glad that I was more focused on other things outside Hogwarts and doing those missions, because if not, because I was getting to the existential crisis of the wizarding world. Like, do we only pull mandrakes out of the pots every time? Is this the only thing we do? So like in every game, is that the only thing we're going to be doing in every movie? But yeah, so that's my least favorite thing, I guess. But again, it kind of everything else overpowers, and I'm focused on all, and like potions, right? I feel like it could have been a tad more, sorry, a tad more, it could do something with ingredients, or maybe choose them and then combine together, or just add a little bit to that part. But at the same time, maybe for some people, they don't want that. They just want to go battle or do their quests instead of be figuring those things out. So yeah.
So I've got a really weird answer for this, because my answer for my favorite thing and my least favorite thing is nearly the same thing.
Oh boy.
But I want to give an honorable mention first of all to the combat, because the combat is just fantastic, and I absolutely love it. And if I'm bored on the game, I literally just go and try and find camps just so I can practice my combat. And I've started playing like hard mode now just to try and level that side of the game up for myself. So I absolutely love the combat. The favorite thing for me in the whole game is, obviously, as a Wizarding World creator rather than just a Hogwarts Legacy creator, is the fan service and the dedication they've put into this game to make it feel so connected to the Wizarding World. And I just absolutely love it. Even down from like the first sequence with the Thestrals, and like that moment there, as a Harry Potter fan, and you just see that moment there, it just instantly is just incredible. And then the end of that sequence, when like it just cuts across and you get like the shot of the owl, which is just synonymous with Harry Potter, and then it cuts to the train, and you go through the smoke on the train, and you see the castle, and there's just so many little moments like that in the game that just make me so happy as someone who nearly knows the books word for word. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just brings so much home. And I just walking down the corridor and just seeing one thing, like it could be nothing of any particular relevance, but just something that they mentioned in the book in one line, you're just like, oh my god, that's that from the book. For me, was the best moment of this game, and it's just absolutely incredible.
Well said.
At the same time, there was so many things that they did that were extra that you didn't necessarily need to put in there. There are really small elements that only people like me would possibly find. And I feel like they've left out a few of the big things. Now, like, I love the common rooms. They're absolutely fantastic, but I don't think I've ever been there unless it's spawned to be there. Like, why like, make me have to go to the common room? Make my mission start in the common room. Make me have to go to the common room to do something. Like, certain elements of like the lessons brought up again. Just like make those lessons. Just like I want to experience my Hogwarts world, and I'm experiencing all these little tiny nods to it. Just let me experience the full experience with these extra bits of Hogwarts and the lessons, the common rooms, and make them actually be there for a reason, and make them more than just scenery.
I think for me, the best part has to be just the environment of the game. And that truly is what makes the experience of Hogwarts Legacy And that's coming from like a fan of the wizarding world my whole life. And I'm sure most of you guys are, anybody watching, but someone in myself who grew up in a rough place. And I'm not here to speak for anybody, but if you haven't seen James talking about Thestrals and why that was so important to him, that hit home with me because I grew up in a very similar way. I saw my friends dying all the time. And when you have things like this that you sought or wanted to be a part of as a kid, and it's there and you are in Hogwarts, it's easily for me the best part of the game. With that being said, though, the worst part of the game, like Glass Marauder said, is the lack of use for the common rooms, the lack of truly anything to do after the story. And once you hit that 25-hour mark, if you just play the story, it's about 25 hours. You can hit some side missions along the way. The rest of you playing is just cleanup. There's no real interactions from NPCs. There's no reasons to turn on the game. You can't really do much in the room of requirements when there's anything. Like, I was the biggest fan of the room of requirements. I said that, I think, last time on this show. That's for me. I'm a base building person. And what's the like, I can't open the doors in the cottage. I can't continuously level up. So I think it's just that side of the video game. It's a good 25, 30-hour experience. Everything else is just cleanup. And that for me is like, I want a reason to exist in that world, and I don't have one.
Yeah, all really good. All really good points. I would say maybe controversially, so I would side with the positivity of the main story. I don't mind it. Combat would actually be my number one, even maybe more than the world itself. So I'm glad Last Marauder brought that up because I think the combat super clever. I don't know how other games can copy something like that because I just think it only really works for this game, but I think they did a really good job. Of course, the environment, how everything looks, I love. And the rest actually would probably start to, like, after some characters, Sebastian's really good. I really like Black Headmaster, which was funny because last time we were on, we talked about how I actually don't think I'm going to like him. I liked him a lot. So there's a pocket of things I really, really like that I think are way above average or, close to like masterpiece. Now, a lot of the other stuff is definitely average to below. Like you guys were saying, the lack of this world, like having things to do. And I think nobody mentioned it, so I'll throw them under the bus. The Merlin trials, I don't know who thought that was a good idea to
Who
do
thought
90, what is it, 95?
95.
I don't know who thought that, but they should, they should change
Okay.
it, let's just say, for the next game.
There's 95 of them?
What, Ben?
There's 95 of them?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
To get the
And it's
trophy.
the same, and that's the thing is some of you guys were mentioning it. They throw in these things and they help in some way because they do keep it alive, but it's very short-sighted. A lot of those Merlin trials are to keep you with people that have a ADHD or whatever. It keeps you focused, but just for like 30 seconds, and then you go to the next one. But once those are done, I think actually Hogwarts Legacy Explained said that once they're like, you lose so much of it. So either you need to have an unlimited amount of these Merlin trials, or you should have probably taken them out and replaced it with some, whoever said that here. So you need to replace it with something else that's got more livability, that just feels those interactions with people. The field guide pages I actually don't mind at all, even though there's hundreds, but because they're slightly different. I think that helps. The Merlin trials, I think, are honestly kind of a joke. And then, the morality thing really just started to tick me off, which the last thing I want to do is support a gaming journalist or say that they're right. But when they were talking about like the killing students and like it feeling weird or like that you can kill, I'll be flat out honest. Throughout the game, I didn't think that. And I want to hear kind of your guys' thought. Maybe we'll do morality next. They kind of ticked me off the more I went on because it's like some of this stuff should not be okay. We're being all morally right. When you finish camps, you'll say like that's for serving Ranrock. You just murdered hundreds. You're like Nathan Drake. You've killed thousands of people, and you're trying to be. So I really think it was lacking any kind of morality and then, of course, the branching paths. It's not even so much what they did do without going too much into it, right? The ending is just one choice between two things. Sebastian is one choice between two things. And that's fine. In my opinion, that's fine. but it's not fine because those are the only 2 times you chose to do it. So I would have preferred actually nothing. Don't let us choose anything, or make it, kind of more spread out. So specifically with the morality, let me, oh God, how did I do this? Let me swap specifically about the morality. You guys let me know what you thought about it.
Yeah, if multiplayer was in Hogwarts Legacy, I would say that the morality system was the biggest miss. But obviously, I'll reserve that for multiplayer, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a little bit. But just based on the morality system, I think it's a big miss because it's been in gaming for years. I mean, you could look at Infamous, and Infamous came out, what, 2009, 2010?
Or Knights of the Old Republic had it 20
Yeah,
years ago.
exactly. Early 2000s, late 90s, it's been in gaming. And like, kind of building off what you said, the little quips that they said the whole time started to get annoying to me. I would be flying around camps, and by the way, there's only 3 people in each camp sometimes. He would say, "Wow, I finally just took out an Ashwinder." Yeah, you did. 25 hours ago, you did also. The people in school are going to be so happy. Or the one where it's like every time you walk into Hogsmeade, no place like home, or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like the little things like that. And I know I'm kind of getting off track from morality system, but that just kind of shows the little things people have been talking about that they missed. And it's the morality system is one of those bigger things because I used AK every chance I got. And it didn't matter if it was a troll, a boss. The Harlow battle was a joke because I'm sure they put these crazy mechanics into the Harlow battle where he switches phases. He does this, he does this. I walked in, I AK'd him, and then Natty ran across and saved my life. Sorry to spoil it, anybody. But I was like, the battle is done in 5 seconds. And I didn't get any like punishment for murdering or eliminating, unaliving all these people, whatever you want to say. I just think is a big mess.
Yeah, this is probably one thing I really couldn't care less about. Just from personal opinion, like I didn't see the reveal trailer, and I was like, oh, I really hope there's a morality system. I was like, I just want to go to Hogwarts. And maybe that's because this playthrough, I'm just trying to make decisions based on what I would do. So that means no unforgivable curses, no sort of being a jerk. So all the outcomes are sort of just make sense because they are sort of just good outcomes. Like if you're mean, the person just replies to that and it sort of switches back to the being nice. So if you're just nice, it just sort of makes sense. If I tried to be a dark wizard, I'm sure I'd like feel that friction of it kind of not having that. But I don't think that should be the focus. I think there's other big things and even small things that they missed that maybe, in my opinion, should be the priority first before morality system. I see how you could like it. I think it adds a lot of replayability. But yeah, it's not necessarily, in my opinion, what should be the focus, just because I don't know. I mean, well, okay, so there probably should be maybe simple decisions, maybe more than 2, just for like Dark Wizard, Good Wizard. But also, you're not there necessarily to be a Dark Wizard, because then you'd have to like change the entire story, and maybe that take away from other parts of the game. So yeah, I really don't think it should be the focus or take too much time away from bigger things. But that's just my opinion. Everyone has their own taste for these things.
I don't judge too hard.
Yeah, for me, I think the morality system, like Nate said, I think it was a big miss. Because and Alex, I was thinking exactly the same thing. KOTOR, right?
Yeah.
Such an amazing game, such an old game, and your actions actually meant something. The big thing, going back to the disconnection, is early on when Hogwarts Legacy advertised, Sebastian's Dark Legacy, and they showed Crucio and all of that, right? And throughout the entire marketing of Hogwarts Legacy, personally, I felt that I could indeed grow up to be a dark wizard. I felt like that was going to be an option, right? Because we can learn AK, we can learn Crucio, we can learn Imperial, we can affect the world around us, like AK, Harlow or Rookwood in a matter of 2 minutes. Um, and and affecting the world around us without any possible consequence. A big example that I have, so first of all, my favorite quest in this entire game was Sebastian's. Um, that was just me. For me, Sebastian's was incredibly better than the main story, and that had to do, we had action, we had consequence, we had somewhat of some different choices to make. But there was one time when Sebastian, says, do not tell, Ominous that I told you this, etc., etc. I flat out came out just to test it, and I went to Gaunt and I said, hey, yeah, oh yeah, Sebastian completely told me, 100%. And he was all angry, and the emotions were there, and etc., etc. And then Sebastian was like, he was like, oh, he's not gonna, whatever. I met Sebastian after, and we were buddies again. Like
Yeah.
that had no
Sebastian
impact.
flips no matter what you choose. Let me just throw that.
Yes,
Sebastian
yes,
has some of the
yes,
weirdest
yes,
because he's focused
yeah.
on more than Natty or Poppy. He'll be mad at you literally in 1 second, and then you'll see the game switch, the code
And nothing
switching to just the default. And
Yep.
it's so obvious.
Yeah.
It really, you notice it a lot with Sebastian.
100%, because it's such a polarized sort of quest, right? You start with this sort of confusion, what is going on here, good, bad, those dynamics, and then it becomes bad, and then you're making choices, but you can quickly see how it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't. All that changes is whether or not you learn spells. That's, in a nutshell, that's all it is. And I felt that was a big miss. And there are moments like that outside of Sebastian's as well. And it just increases that sort of disconnect, right? That I had as, what I'm doing, does it really matter? And the answer is no. At the end, you have two choices, and, basically that's it. So I wish, obviously, that there was a morality system. Absolutely 100%. Right. But for me personally, that wasn't, like high on the importance tadpole per se.
So yeah, before we start with, I just want to go back to the sayings and things that Nate was talking about, and just giving a special mention to Ignacia Wildsmith and her 5 catchphrases.
Oh God!
You hear at 40 hours, hearing how inconvenient travel was before flu powder was invented hurts my head. Yeah. So I did like an 11-minute ramble on this yesterday, and my biggest case in point was the Sebastian things. In terms of Ominous is very against this path Sebastian is going down, and no matter what choice you choose in this scenario, you always get Ominous going, it's all your fault. It's like, no, I'm trying to talk him out of this, but Sebastian doesn't listen. But it's like you are meant to go down the path with him, and that's how the story is. And my thumbnail yesterday was taken from their website, Be the Witch or Wizard You Want to Be. Or it's rather Be the Witch or Wizard the story wants you to be at times. Especially in the Sebastian story, you could disagree with every choice Sebastian has. You will still get to that end mission when you start it, and it feels like you follow Sebastian along, agree with everything he's done, even though you've disagreed. So it's not even just the morality. I just think from a choice point of view, you don't have many choices. You can disagree with everything, and then disagreements, like Sly said, I actually did this yesterday where it's about the Undercroft. Sebastian's like, don't tell Ominous. You just go and tell Ominous. He gets very angry, but Sebastian, forgets that you've told Ominous and betrayed his trust. And yeah, it's just little things like that. You have these moments where you won't give the gobstones back to Zenobia, and she'll be very cross. But yeah, it's forgotten about. Like, she'll just, if you ever see her again, she'll say, "Oh, hi, thanks for finding them." It's weird. It's weird. Like, no, I didn't give you them back though. Yeah, it just and stuff like if you learn Crucio, for example, and in the PlayStation exclusive, when you're in that mission, you can use Crucio in front of an officer of the law. No one reacts. Yeah, you can Crucio some old woman, and yeah, the officer of the law doesn't care. And yeah, it's just things like that, just the choices you can make in the story. But my favourite is Fig's reaction to what happens to Rookwood. He's like, oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, that
You're a
one's cold.
15-year-old student. It doesn't matter what you did. Well, cool. Let's go and finish the story now. It's just the choices and things you make. It doesn't. Yeah, it's just you don't get to choose a lot of it. There's no morality. It just feels jarring a lot of the time, especially with like you said, the Sebastian stuff. Just feels at times jarring. You'll disagree with Sebastian at all times, but he just reacts like you've agreed with him. And it's like, no, I don't want you to do this, Sebastian. But he's like, oh, yeah, you're along for it. Come on, then. Like, meet me in Felcroft. See you then. And yeah, it does feel jarring.
It just felt like a bunch of mood swings.
Yeah. It's like it's like someone's obliviating him every 5 seconds after you disagree with him. He's like, oh, cool. See you in Felcroft. Either that or he just doesn't listen, which is fair enough. But yeah, I will say, though, the only one good morality and sort of a choice in the game is actually Sebastian storyline, which I think we all could agree is one of the better things in the game. That is the only one choice I thought, wow, yeah, that has weight, that has meaning. And I enjoyed that one out of all the others in the game.
Sebastian's story is better than the main story.
Oh, I agree, yeah.
I'm just gonna
1000%.
say it for everybody else who is thinking it.
Let's see. I totally agree with that fact. Like I remember saying, like when coming out in the Undercroft and Ominous is there, I'm like, oh no. I played as like, oh no, he didn't tell me. Like he figured out himself. So I waited. I was like worried meeting, like, going to the next mission. What's gonna be there? Is Sebastian gonna be mad that he find out what's gonna happen? And then nothing really happened. So I was like,
no, it broke Ben.
Oh. But
oh no,
what?
Wait, it's coming back. Last Marauder, you want to? Oh wait, Ben, you're back. You cut out.
I was cut out. Okay, I'm back. What did you hear last me saying?
You were worried about the next mission, or like in a good way.
Yeah, like in a good way, in terms of like, oh no, like Sebastian's gonna be mad, or there's gonna be a fight between him and Ominous or something like that. They're gonna be like, but none of that happened really. So yeah, I wish they would follow up to that just a little bit. But in terms of morality, I think I'm kind of like Lamorak. Like I didn't think about that like almost at all from when I was expecting the game. Like it's a question that people would bring up, but here, honestly, I kind of feel like a dark wizard. I go and I murder everyone, and I'm like, I don't really care that the game doesn't call me that, but I feel like I am a villain in the way because of what I'm doing, and I feel like without the game telling you, you can in the same way not be that and actually be good, like kill them with plants, for example, or just stupefy, no using. So it's like you have those choices and you can make them, but it's just personal for me. Like but because to me, the fact that you can choose and steer a path, it's cool, but I have trouble decision making. So that would be, I would rather prefer like an old school Lord of the Rings game where you can choose good campaign, evil campaign. On one side you play as the Fellowship, and the other side you play as Sauron and Saruman.
Yeah,
that's it. That like two completely, and you start not in Hogwarts, but I don't know, somewhere in caves. I don't know. Yeah. You grow as a dark wizard. So I would love that, but that's my personal thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to disagree with him, kind of. I agree. I would like there to have been slightly more impact to my choices. Maybe just different voice lines for the characters. So if I went against Sebastian, he had then a separate set of voice lines that he would use from then on, if that made sense. So if you make this choice, this is the voice lines you're going to have. I don't necessarily want it to impact the whole game. It just change the way that he interacts with you. But I don't think the morality system or lack thereof was the problem that everyone's complaining about. I think the actual problem that everyone's complaining about is the inclusion of the unforgivable curses in this game. Because if the unforgivable curses weren't in this game, then there wouldn't be a need necessarily for a morality system as such. It's the fact that we can go into these camps and we can just straight up murder these people, or we can use Crucio and it's in front of teachers and there is absolutely no repercussions. That is the actual issue. Whereas if we went in there and we was using, even if we was using Confringo against them, yes, we've seen people get burnt in Harry Potter and they just put Dittany over them and they're fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can go into these situations without the unforgivable curses, take out a whole camp, and then they went to St. Mungo's, then to Azkaban. Do you know what I mean? Like, that would be absolutely fine. But it's the fact that when you put the unforgivable curses in, then that's when you're doing stuff that in wizarding law breaks the law. And I think what they if it was me, I would have left them out for this game. Maybe you could have had the Sebastian story and had them used as one-off occasions, not as an open spell that we use at any point. And then as the story progresses, if there's another story, if there's another game, and then there's another game, maybe by the last game you could then introduce them into the game, and at that point you could have a full-on morality system. But it would need to be more of a sort of Grand Theft Auto morality system as such, where if you're using an unforgivable curse and someone catches you do it, then that's when you should have not just the Dark Wizards or whoever you're fighting against that story. You should then have the Ministry officials coming down and going, no, you've broken the law, you're coming with us. And then you could have a star system or whatever you want to have. And, it would then build up to, your basic law enforcement officers, like the ones that you see in Hogsmeade, up to your auras, and then up to your Dementors. And that would be the way that I think would have been made more sense if they did it that way, rather than actual morality system, because they've tried to implement a morality system in the fact that we make choices about what we say against people, and I feel that's a completely different morality system to the unforgivable curses. And I feel like they're two real separate not really issues, but two separate entities that could be addressed in different ways. I would see a morality system as making our choices, and that has an effect on what people say to us or how they interact with us in the future. But I just think the unforgivable curses is more from the people I've seen complaining about it or talking about it on social media and that sort of stuff. I think it's the unforgivable curses that cause the most issue, and the fact that we can just use them with no repercussions. And if they weren't in the game or they had some sort of consequence to them, it would make a lot more sense, and they could have potentially introduced them a bit later on and maybe had a few different spells to be able to use in this.
Well, personally, I agree with Last Marauder with the unforgivable curses, right? Allowing us to dabble into that world of the dark arts, right? Calls for that. But primarily though, let's not forget about the choices of the missions, right? Going back to Sebastian's, Sebastian's a beautiful story because it polarizes the character. Well, you choose where you go. Well, trying anyways, right? You're given this scenario, right? This creative, if you will, and you can clearly see that he's going down this darker path. Okay, but the game, because there is no morality system, the game chooses, no matter what you say, the game chooses that linear format, and you're going to get to the very end no matter what you say. And that's across anything, right? So my personally, Last Marauder, my dislike with the lack of morality is the fact that your words have no meaning or power in anything, right? It's not primarily, definitely the whole AK and the unforgivables, it adds an extra layer. I 100% agree with you, but I just want to emphasize the notion that, well, when we say things, they don't really mean anything. So our voice has no meaning other than just words and flavor to the game.
Yeah.
So to piggyback off of you guys real quick, I 100% agree. I think AK and stuff like that could have been taken out to save things, but I think this partially falls on the devs, and I think everything I've said so far has been kind of negative. So I want to say I actually really like this game, but I think this partially falls on the devs, because when you put in the options to say don't tell Sebastian, and then on the back end don't make it that matters, you're putting a half-assed morality system in there with no consequences. And I think that's where it falls for me. Like, okay, so why even give me the choice? Whereas you could have done what Ben said and just give me the good story versus the bad story, and these are the choices, and they're only going to be cutscenes. I don't get to pick my choicing options. This is just how it's going to play out. I would have preferred that than the half-baked, okay, I get to choose if I tell ominous or not, and then there's no consequence. I think that's for me where it
I
I
think I want to agree with this completely. Like, I like the fact that you can ask a bit more information about that, but just give it to me.
Yeah.
Build it more into a narrative cutscene, as you said. Just give it to me. Don't just like, oh yeah, I want to know maybe more about the school or whatnot. Just give it to me all and move on, because it is a linear story, and I love it. But I agree, the fact that you do choose those different options and then not get really a follow-up to that specifically, it could be a little bit, oh, I guess that we just don't forget that.
No, you're explaining it really well. And this is kind of that debate, right? Sounds like a consequence system, not so much a morality system, more Witcher, less Mass Effect.
Yeah.
I think it's
completely.
I think it's because with Sebastian, it is more Mass Effect. So that's what I was, when I opened the question, the fact that without going into it, right, the choice with Sebastian and the choice with the ending, the fact that that's there at all is what Nate was saying. It's you're like dangling it in front of us, saying we have this mechanic in the game, and also don't forget what was the, I always mess up the tagline, live your own. What was the
live
thing?
the unwritten.
Live the unwritten. But it makes it sound they're giving it to us. They're letting us do what we want, but that's not true.
Yeah, it should be living the written.
Yeah. So the whole idea that you can do things with these choices, like Ben said, the extra details, that's there's like 15 questions and you pick all of them and you listen to what they say. That's fine. Once you give choices that are polar opposites and you include that into the game, you're hinting that that's what you want to do, but the game can't handle it, right?
Well, they mean nothing, right?
Yeah.
What you say means.
But the
nothing.
AK one,
Because they do. Because like in the end, it's like, again, it just boils down to one choice. Like you voiced yourself, good job, but we're still gonna go with this choice.
Right.
So it still tells the same story, which is great, but it's like, yeah.
Well, the problem is with this whole morality system thing also is if you make a second game as year 6, you have to canonically, or whatever the freaking
I
word is.
want to talk about that. I want to, without getting, I want to save it a little bit for Ben, but I do, one of my questions, I want to read one of these comments, but one of my questions I do want to ask you guys, what's canon? Because I think they butchered, like I said this before we went live. I think the ending is
okay.
I don't want to get too much into it, Ben, but we because there's two choices. What do you know? Maybe it's better for you to tell us what you know.
See, okay, so what I know that the Professor Fig dies.
Oh no, I have not finished the story. I should have said that earlier.
Okay.
Honestly, I expected that though.
He doesn't die. What are you talking about?
Well, that's what I saw on Twitter. That's what I
know
saw.
the choices.
Oh, the spoilers just keep coming.
So okay. But about canon, do you have questions building up there, Alex, or you want us to?
Yeah. I want to read this comment. I'm just I'm foreshadowing. We'll
ahead.
talk about the canon. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So let's read this. Instead of me jumping around, I'll do one thing at a time. Then this was going back to a lot of these questions about fifth year late bloomer. Did our parents die? I don't know who saw it or who didn't. I asked Troy this, and he had said that this was an actual decision they made to make it ambiguous so that they purposely didn't tell you. What? I don't, if they can add on, the only way this works to me, I want to hear your guys' opinion. The only way this works to me is if you just naturally build, which I do think you can. It came off very jarring just because, again, with the social media presence and again, kind of like dangling the keys in front of us, it felt, at least to me, I think to all of us in all of our live streams and stuff, I think we expected answers. I don't think anybody didn't expect an answer to why we were fifth year. And then so for me, not getting it was like, I couldn't believe it because it just felt so obvious you would tell us, but maybe they can fix it in the next one. So let me go down the line specifically with that question. What'd you guys, were you jarred at them not answering it? Go ahead, Ben. What are you gonna say?
Could you put the question again?
Yeah. Yes. Oh God.
is
So
going.
There we go.
just to confirm, people who've 100%ed it, there's no mention of any of this at the 100% mark.
Troy
No.
confirmed it. They do not tell you.
Okay. I was waiting off judgment on that until I'd 100% just in
Yeah,
case
I was
there was
afraid to make
anything.
like a video because I
Yeah.
thought there'd be like a dialogue later on
Yeah.
that talked about it. Yeah, but there's not.
Yeah. I mean, I would like answers as to why we started late, and I thought it was going to be the reason why the story happens, basically. But the fact they haven't doesn't massively annoy me. At the end of the day, if they,
Would you like an
They-
answer in 6? Or in the
I
next
would,
game?
I'd like an answer as it goes on. Yeah, I'd like them to
Okay.
answer it as it goes on. Specifically, yeah, if they can answer some of these questions as it goes on, why we started late, what happens to our parents if we've got parents, just give us a bit more backstory as the story goes on. But at the same time, I can understand reasons why they wouldn't do that, because if they are making this our story, then I could have lived. You're 11 years old when you find out. If you are Muggle born or whatever, you wouldn't know of the Wisdom World potentially. So, if I wanted to make this my own story and be my own thing, then don't give me a backstory, because it's my backstory. I'm me. So I can kind of understand reasons why they have done that, and they've made it a bit ambiguous. But yeah, part of me would have I mean, I just anything more Wisdom World with more Wisdom World stuff to dig into, me, that's what I would do. So yeah, personally, I would love them to explain more about it so I can dig into it and make more theories of my own. So yeah, they've left it ambiguous, so I'm going to stick with my theory, and my theory is right. So we were a squib.
Yeah.
So that's exactly how it was.
Yeah, I think on this one, it's not the biggest deal to me. It felt very Destiny 1 for anyone who played it, where there's a couple memed lines like, I don't have time to explain what I can't explain, or stuff like that, where I could tell you a story of a great battle, but I won't. Like, those were lines from Destiny 1. And this felt just kind of like, here, you're a character, but we're going to bring you down this path, and we're not going to tell you anything. And sure, they could make up for it in the next game if they're making one, or expansion or whatever. But this to me didn't. It's annoying because I wish we knew. And again, I think this falls on the devs with the way they marketed the game at the beginning. We all kind of thought we would find out. We all also thought from the original release trailer this would be more of a school sim, but it ended up being not a school sim. So to me, this is not that big of a deal. I think it's just how the game was marketed that we thought we would all find out.
Yeah, it's definitely not a big deal to me. I think it's a bit odd that there's sort of not a morality system, and you're going on a very linear sort of preset path story-wise, and then they're going to leave it open, like, oh, you can just be whoever you want. It's like, you can't actually be whoever you want, so why would you leave the back past end of the story so open if you're not going to leave the front end open? It just seems kind of strange. And I feel like there's things throughout this game that are similarly strange. It's almost like they had certain plans and then they had to pull those back when it was getting too ambitious. And you sort of get those sorts of feelings in various aspects of the game. But specifically, that one piece of information is not a big deal. It just seems odd that it wasn't included, and it's odd that they didn't leave it out, or that they did leave it out for the reason they gave.
Okay, so like I mentioned before, it is 1000% a big deal for me. And the reason, primarily, and this is just a personal thing, right? I respect everybody's opinions, and I can definitely see like the point that Last Marauder said, like leaving it open so you can bring your character into the game. That's an amazing idea, right? I really enjoy that. But here's the thing: when I play games, I very much care about the lore. I very much care about the story, and I'm always trying to find my connection to immerse myself into the story. Okay, and because of what happened, I didn't feel that occurred. If you look at most pieces of literature out there, they begin, building up, right, to some sort of climax, right, and then the hero wins or the hero loses, that type of thing, or it continues, the quest continues. The big problem there is not establishing who we were throughout the game, basically, if you look at a string, right, we are at the bottom and the top is the climax. We couldn't climb the string or the rope, however you want to call it, because we had no basis of who we were. We couldn't connect who we are, what we are doing, why are we going to Hogwarts, what happened to us, why are we a fifth year, how do we have this connection to ancient magic? Are we connected to Isadora Morganach? Are we connected to the Keeper somehow? Right? This string was never taught, if you will. It was very loose because of that, and I didn't like that. Well, one could argue, okay, well, they didn't have to explain it at the beginning of the game, right? They could explain it as we, in the future sequels or whatever. I personally dislike that, and the reason I do is because even literatures out there who choose to um, not really divulge all the information about the characters or the protagonist of the book initially, right? Like, look at the Dan Brown series, right? When Robert Langdon wakes up and he has no idea where he is or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. The last one, the last symbol, but as he progresses through the storyline, things start to get fed, right? Information starts to be given, and then he starts to connect the pieces, and eventually it leads you to the main story and to the climax of the story. I thought primarily this is why it was a big miss for me, because that connection was never made. So this whole game, right, there should have been some sort of connection between us other than we can wield ancient magic. I thought that, for the reasons I just spoke, I thought that that was a big miss. And like, a bit another, and it's the main, so that I'm talking about the main story, right? But then you have the some side quests, like Sebastian's was amazing, right? I like Sebastian's, I like Poppy's side quests, right? But then when you go around the world and you go through every single hamlet, and everybody's talking about Rookwood and how Rookwood kidnapped their children, killed their husbands, kidnapped their families. They're killing people, they're poaching this, and Harlow is doing all of these bad things as well. And then in one cutscene that lasts 2 minutes, Rookwood appears, talks to us, says, "You're by yourself. I've made this happen." And as we're about to speak, a guy comes behind us, snatches, and then brings us to an arena, and in 2 minutes we kill Rookwood. Right? Like, why not bring us to a dungeon of some sort, and allow us to actually escape that dungeon, like leading, like, that's what I'm saying, the lack of a basis leading up to something major. To me, it was a big miss, and you see that in the main story. You see that with the Rookwood and Harlow story, very, very quickly. And to me, it just felt very much inconsequential.
So yeah, going back, I agree with a lot of things I was saying there. But yeah, the fifth year and the magic thing and learning, the ancient magic, it wouldn't matter if it was just our character, but they clearly go out their way to say Rackham started as a fifth year, Morganach started as fifth year. So this ancient magic, clearly you start as a fifth year. So why? So if you're going to say the other two characters in this game have ancient magic, start as a fifth year, there is clearly a pattern, a reason to it. So you're going to allude to it at some point. So don't just say these characters all started as fifth years. And I did watch a thing with Troy, but so if it was just our character and wanted to make it vague, that's fair enough. But to say the only other two characters we see in the game who have connections to ancient magic start as fifth years, well, then there's a pattern. So there's a reason. And yeah, I was really expecting, like, maybe not even in like the main missions, maybe it's a side quest, like how you learn about Ramrock's, his ideals and the reason he hates wizard kind. You learn in the side quest with Mr. Oaks and how he was attacked as a very young goblin by wizards and nearly killed. So I was expecting something like that with maybe Fig, just a little talk where you go to the professors and you learn stuff. But yeah, to have that dangled, like all ancient magic wielders start as fifth years, and then just to not have a reason, it just seems strange. Like, if it was just us and we were the only fifth year and Rackham and Morganach started as first years, fire. That's fine enough. Leave it to our imagination. But when there's a pattern, it does need to be explained why that pattern's there.
See, because I didn't really finish the story, it's hard for me to say at this moment. But I'm just trying to think. I think it's interesting to find out that they didn't establish or any or gave any information to actually why we're fifth year. But I feel like I think the reason for that could be that, it's like your experience, you are who you want to be, like in the way that you maybe you are muggle born, or maybe you're not, or maybe you're pure blood. It's only like it's you, sort of, you decide that, and they don't focus on that. But it's a good point Sly brought up. Like, I wonder if not if they don't really establish what is our background, how does the story evolve? But I need to see the end of it to see maybe it's not really about that. So I think it's similar to how it is in Zelda, because they're always the chosen ones. They're link to the path. That it's a link, literally. Like, there's a chosen one every 1,000 years. They're all spread across the different timelines, and they do explain in different games the backgrounds in a very odd way. So I feel like it's that part. It's like you are the hero. It's not Link, really, or here it's the main character. It's your name. It's whatever your past is, and possibly that saves them for future. They won't probably, if they want to make I mean, without finishing the story, I wanted to make a video a while back. Like, I think with the success like this, I think there's gonna be a sequel, and but I want to see what's the ending to try to come up with a script for that. But if they go further, they maybe won't have to get back to the same character or the same background. It's going to be again another something, or another student who is studying. I don't know, but it kind of ties them. It lets them loose, so to say, so they don't they don't corner themselves. But I do want to talk more about the lore and canon stuff. I want to get back to that part.
Okay, yeah. And I think they're good points. I think it's much like what we talked about just with one or two questions ago. To me, it just boils down to they're giving you some of it, but then they don't go all the way. So I like the idea that you get to choose your past. That's fine. But now you're telling us it's your journey. It's not your journey. It's their journey. So right there immediately kills that. So I do like that idea, and that's what Troy said and all that stuff. I like it, but it's the same thing with morality and consequences and all that stuff. If you give us just one and you make it seem like it's a bigger deal than it is, you've already messed up, because you're telling us it's going to be this impactful. So again, you're telling us in the beginning, it's you. Alex is that person. You get to choose where your past is, but then I guess I lose all control over the entire game. And that's too big of a contrast. You can't do that. So, and by the way, and the comments are saying it too. I do want to make this clear. I think all of us are kind of on the same page, no matter where our range of liking it to, thinking things need fixes. I think we're all in the same boat of for their first try, this was a slam dunk, right? I think even for the more critical of us, including myself, they did a really, really good job, on the first attempt. There's
this game is a masterpiece, and they've literally made a game that for gamers is incredible and for non-gamers is incredible, and there's not many people that can do that. And yes, there's flaws in it. There's always going to be flaws in it because they were marketing it to such a wide range of people, and I think that's what we've got to understand is what this game isn't just marketed as a hard. I class myself as a hardcore gamer. I play games. It's my main hobby to do it in my spare time. I play games a lot. This game isn't just marketed for people like us, and it's also not marketed for just people like us. We have gone through every single trailer, and we have lived the journey up into the release of this game way deeper into this game than 99% of people have. So our expectations of what the game was going to be is a lot higher than what a lot of generic people are going to be. So I think they've made an absolutely incredible game.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's got different, ranges and critiques. And I know, at least for when I make videos and stuff, and people will come at me, and basically with that, you're into it so much, you're looking at it in all these ways. You have to. I think I'm allowed to say it. I think anybody's allowed to say whatever. I think you also have to come at it with a perspective that not everybody is you, right? And that's you learn that, the longer you've been around. Again, I think for the first attempt, and if they listen, which it does seem like they do that, not all these changes are like these revolutionary things. A lot of these, like we said earlier, they're in a lot of different games. I think just because of the size and scope that they went to with this, and like you guys were saying, and I mean, Troy said it so long ago, I guess I should have seen it coming, to be honest. One of the first times I talked to him, he talked about how it was reaching for like everyone. And I mean, when you do that, I think Joe had said it in the comments, when you do that, you oftentimes miss a lot of it because you're kind of halving all of them. So I probably should have seen that coming like a year and a half ago. Ben, what did you want to say with the lore? Because I have an idea for my next question, but what were you?
I guess it will work better if there's going to be a question.
Okay.
But
what I eventually want to do is I do want to specifically talk about the ending with the two choices. And Lamorak and Ben haven't, I don't want to ruin it, so, but I want to give you guys, I guess, the option. We can do that as like the last question. We can do maybe a couple other questions, and then you can like mute or leave and come back, or however you guys want to do it. But what do you two think? Because I do want to focus on the ending a bit.
Okay. I would love. Yeah. I can mute. I can.
Yeah, I want to give you the. I want to make it known I did not force these two. I didn't force these two to be on. But no, I want to give you. I don't want to ruin this like once in a lifetime game for either of you. So I want to give you the option to get out before we do it and come back, or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I'll do that. But I'll say about canon and in general lore. I have I swim in it. I love the lore. I love the deep dives into the Harry Potter and the backstories, etc. At the same time, when it boils down to specifically a video game, even though I was creating theories and all of that, I accept what they give, because at the end of the day, it's a video game, and there's so many things that are not canon at all. The mechanics of how things work, it just like it's, it does it because it's a video game at the end of the day. So I don't like judge them too much, and I feel like that's that flexibility that they created with our character and everything, so they don't have to like. They chose this timeline, also this pocket, for a reason, and I don't know. I don't know. So
I saw this. This is a really. You guys will have to tell me if you remember this, because I think I do. Didn't they mention we survived something that made us popular? Whatever happened, and then you guys were going back. It was in a developer interview right after the first state of play back in March. One of the devs mentioned we survived something that made us popular. Anybody know anything?
Something.
Moira.
Wait,
Fire.
You're
It was
mute.
in the behind the
You're
scenes.
muted.
Who, me? Hello?
No, Hogwarts Legacy.
Connor.
Oh,
So I was
sorry.
going to say, so I remember it was like the woman, the like one who was doing the story, but I think it's referring to the dragon attack. So obviously George dies, you survive, and there's a lot of people on your first day when you're at Hogwarts in the common rooms talk about it.
Okay. You think that's what it meant?
They also gone about the trolls as well. So I mean, it could be like a cumulative thing of your entrance to Hogwarts and then what you do on your first day.
So I do think it refers to the dragon. Yeah, I think it's only really in the common room when you're speaking to like the characters of your house for that first time. Like, oh, you survived a dragon yesterday, and then never gets mentioned again.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, that was I want to shout out Last Marauder here, because he had mentioned this earlier. Great character, Headmaster Black, and the Polyjuice potion. Good call.
I was so happy when that happened. I was
It was a
so
great
happy.
mission.
At least one of my theories was right. I was so happy.
Were you guys like
Such a
keeping
fun quest.
track as creators of like what you wanted to happen, or if you nailed something basically of a prediction? Were you guys keeping track of yourself?
So I made like a top 10 Easter egg videos, based on like stuff from Harry Potter games and mainly from the Harry Potter stuff. So the first thing was the one-eyed witch statue, and when we got the side quest with Gareth, and you get to go down and go to Honeydew, I was like, oh yeah, I got it. I said that might be a side quest. I didn't say it'd be a Weasley, and yeah, just a few other stuff like, because I knew another one was a side quest with a famous witches and wizards card. So in the Harry Potter games, in the old ones, there was 101 of them. So I went through all 101, trying to find out people who were alive during this timeline. And I said I got down to 2 who were at Hogwarts, and I said one of them will be a side quest. And there is one in Hogsmeade with a student who had a famous witch and wizard cards. They were my 2 claims to fame.
Yeah, I had a for me the big moment was when I learned that the room, the map chamber with the pensieve, was actually under Hogwarts. And so I had basically partially the entire main quest, almost exactly the same, with the exception that Isadora wasn't part of it, and the four keepers were actually the founders of Hogwarts. So that was my whole thing with all that. But I was very happy to learn. I was very disappointed with the whole Merlin thing.
I was gonna say, did anybody talk to James if he's doing okay with the Merlin stuff?
Yeah, no, I mean, like James, I went and I talked about Merlin. I talked about Morgana and went off the rails with that. But primarily the 4 founders being basically the pillars and the pensieve, right? Being under Hogwarts. But yeah, that was a big moment for me when I was playing the game. I was like, yes, in a way, anyways.
I was still adamant until right at the end when they said about, because her name is Morganac. How close is that?
Yeah.
Like
So
that's got to be intentional, right?
I know.
I think there's a connection there. I think there's a connection. But yeah, like I feel like I'm trying to keep track, but again, I my memory is being written off this game as I keep playing it. So I don't know what else is gonna happen. But yeah, there are just a couple of moments that I'm like, did I get that really? Is that what I got? Like, I need to fully experience it. But like the connection, I think like with the dragons, it's like partially that, but also like that whole main part, the map chambers, like all those trials are kind of interconnected and they're all underneath Hogwarts. That was like, yeah. But I guess, I don't know. I guess there's no Battle of Hogwarts at the end. I don't know yet.
Anybody else keep track? Did anybody else?
But yeah, about the Merlin, because it's like, what that, I mean, that guy, like the way, so like that guy on those inscriptions and then behind, it was not Merlin at all this time.
Yeah,
it was the Rackham. But see, like I was agreeing a lot with, and like with the theory that James was pulling, and it totally makes sense how it links back to Merlin, and like there's Morgana. It makes sense, but always there was this ringing something, because like they establish the Merlin trials, like those puzzles, because they establish as that. I was like, well, they're being upfront about Merlin in the trailer, so like I was having that a little ringing, like, is he gonna be part, or is just the Merlin trials and that's that?
yeah.
So yeah.
Well, let me ask one more kind of upbeat one, and then we'll talk about. Then we'll do the ending. I actually didn't ask this. I should have earlier. We all have talked so much together and separate going into it. So as people that have been talking about it for various lengths of time, what was everybody's first experience when you boot it up? What was that first reaction like for everyone?
Oh, we switched it. Well, for me, it was a while back. I recorded it. It was insane. It completely blew my mind. The intro, how it started in the very beginning. I was so happy with that sequence. The game wasn't waiting at all for anything. It was just kind of slapped you in the face with content, with story, and you're in. Stuff is happening, and you're looking forward to it. it was a very like wholesome experience, and I wanted to get back to the gameplay. And just right now, to sum it up, how I love this game, I've been playing it. I restarted it so many times. I restarted at every single house to get the common room footage. I was doing 2 simultaneous playthroughs. I stopped one now. I paused it, and I've locked in over 60 hours into the game without really advancing too much into it. And I love it. I breathe it every single day, and I'm not getting tired of it. I'm not getting bored of it. There's so much to it. So that's overall my ride so far.
Sorry, I took a wrong moment to take a drink then. This every time I turn this game on, I know I'm in for a good time. Like, it is just everything that I wanted from a Wizarding World game. Yeah, there's nitpicky things that I would like to improve and all that sort of stuff, but from the moment I first turned this game on, and obviously I did the 24-hour live stream, and it's quite weird actually now going back and playing some of the stuff that I played towards the end of that again, because I just don't remember it because I was obviously just that tired. But doing the 24-hour live stream, just starting up, and everyone was there watching it with me, and it was just such a great experience. And I said at the beginning, like the little nods they do to Wizarding lore and just showing the things like poor George, like straight away, but then like the instant after that, like I didn't care about him because what they did with the Thestrals has just never been done before. Like like that's not been done in anything. We've never seen them instantly just appear for someone in that sense. Like, it was just so good, and like the opening scenes and the way they introduce you to the school and Hogsmeade, and it's sort of like really slow, but at the same time, every single element of it is just magical. Like everything they introduce you to in this game is as magical as it should be. And I've not had a great like last 3 weeks in my personal life. Like things have been happening, which is why I haven't put out as much content as I'd like to have. But it's been a fantastic escape, and it's going to be a fantastic escape for months and months and months. And that to me is just a credit to what this game is, and it is just absolutely incredible.
I think the opening of the game is really strong. I honestly had a great experience with it. I played it a little bit early because I took a trip to New Zealand. But I think the opening of the game really hooked you. And I think I talked to a couple of you guys offline, but the longer the game went on, the less I enjoyed it. But the opening, like the first 10 hours were pretty strong. They felt very tutorial heavy because you kept going to class, learn this spell, go to this place to get this. But it had me so gripped. I think I played it for maybe 15 hours straight. And then it was like, okay, now things are starting to cool down for me. But at the same time, I honestly enjoy this game. I enjoyed all, I think I'm like 70, 80 hours in right now. And wow. I've got to finish. I'm almost done with the Ravenclaw playthrough of up to the map chamber to get the trophy, and then I'll have to do Hufflepuff. So I've done Slytherin and Gryffindor is my 100%. So I truly enjoy this game, but I just know that this is the best stepping stone or best first step attempt in any game from a company that has made games before. So it's a great sign. And obviously they're going to have $1 billion before the Switch version's out, before maybe even the PS4, Xbox One version's out. So if they don't either hire more people or make improvements on the second game or expansions, it's going to be disappointing, but I think they will. So it's a good sign.
Yeah. I think the opening was really good. So far I haven't really experienced the story aspect of the game that's been that strong. I think it set up a game which didn't happen. They mention, I'm sure you have lots to do tonight before classes start tomorrow. So it's sort of like, it's like teasing this accurate Hogwarts experience, and that's not something that we got. So it almost makes me even want a school sim to some degree even more. I think that the opening was perfect. I don't think it delivered on what the opening sort of made the game feel like. but it was still an incredible experience. And walking into the my voice is broken. Walking into the common room for the first time, that was an insane experience. Yeah, it's just, yeah, it was a great opening. It was a great first experience. It's just still, every time I think about it, I just wish it was more of a school sim, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like last Marauder, I was doing a live stream with a bunch of my other fellow Aurors, and I got emotional, right? The intro of the game was amazing. The mystery, the consequences that you saw, I mean, the dragon attack, going into this sort of secret quests between, if you will, in different places all across the UK. And then arriving in that chamber, Ranrock coming, and that Colossus ancient magic giant coming in and taking over the scene, and us finally like teleporting somewhere else, and then the Forbidden Forest, the train, the soundtrack, and the Black Lake, and then Hogwarts just showed up. It just drove in the message that, hey, it doesn't matter, and I think that's what we've all felt reading Harry Potter, right? It doesn't matter what's going on around the world, right? Hogwarts is a safe place. And that made me, flat out emotional, right? When we were fighting and almost dying, all of a sudden, amazing, look where we are. And then Hogwarts is there, right? The number one play, like the thing that roots the entire game, right? So the intro of the game was extremely powerful, to me anyways. Again, I got extremely emotional about it. So I think they couldn't have done a better job with the intro. I think that was phenomenal.
Yeah, so Sly and Last Marauder, I live streamed about the first 6 hours or so. Started about 7 o'clock in the morning, UK time. And yeah, like I was saying at the beginning, I just have these like really silly personal memories of childhood stuff of playing the early games. So like when Order of the Phoenix game first came out, being at the top of the Owlry. So when I got to the top of the Owlry in this game, it cast me back to when I was 8 years old playing that game in the summer holidays off school. And just things like that from each of the games just taking me back to like being a child. And yeah, just these like really silly memories. And yeah, I don't know if emotional is the right word, but it just made me like this really silly smile, maybe this happiness that I couldn't describe, of just being back in this world, exploring like a new game. And yeah, I just took me back to all these old games I played for the last 20 years, because I'm that old and I've been playing. Yeah, I can't believe I've been playing these games for 20 years and we finally got a new one. And yeah, just all the memories just flooding back for the last 20 years playing these games and culminating in this. We're finally here after, and obviously we can all relate, for so many years of talking and like going so deep into it, to finally have it in his hands. It just felt surreal when that title was going up, and like, I couldn't still believe it was here. The 6th of February 2023 was here after so long. I remember when we announced it was 6 months away. It was like 6 months, and these 6 months have flown by from when we announced that. I just remember every time we come on here and be like, would be a month, 2 months closer. It's like, how are we all feeling? We all just felt, well, it's pretty surreal. We're almost here after 2-3 years of talking about it. It was crazy.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. For me, it was almost, I don't even think I got, that's why I don't do like the reaction cam shot or, videos like that. I think I would just disappoint. It was almost completely normal, but almost a sense of like, I can't believe after 4 years or whatever that it's actually out. And then the ending is actually what got me. I thought it was like, in the moment, I didn't mind it. And we'll talk about, the ending after specifically, but I didn't mind it in the moment. But it was like, I can't believe it actually ended. So for me, it was more about the ending, that this entire journey of 4 years, not really the beginning of the game, but the end of the game, say, oh, I guess we're done. All that work and all that stuff, and now it's over. So It's pretty nuts. This one was pretty fun. I saw Nate commenting to it about George 10 seconds. I noticed that he was in that carriage for an incredibly long time. He could have escaped. I assume he had a panic attack or something that, stopped him from moving. That was pretty funny. What you guys think? George, were you guys surprised, just really quickly, were you surprised how little he was in, or did you kind of expect it to be fast?
Not expected for that to happen at all. It was just mind blown. I don't know how big his role was going to be, but just in general, it just blew my mind.
Once he died, I was thinking, a lot of these cards, like those profiles, anybody's up for, like, they don't have to be as detailed as. So that's honestly the first thing I thought is some of these characters are actually going to have more detail in those profile descriptions than in the game. And but George was,
they set us up, literally. Yeah. They set us up. They made those cards on purpose. It seemed like he's as important as anyone else.
Remember when he was given the profile, I saw people like quote tweeting it and being like, "Oh, he's way more important than we think he is." It's
So, I mean, I personally thought he was going to be the Indiana Jones of the story, if you will. I thought he was gonna come like, hey, I have all of this stuff. I have these books, and I know ancient magic. I thought he was gonna be basically the gap between ancient magic, Fig, and us, right? I think he was gonna lead into that. Maybe he was work with Miriam or whatever. But num time happened, and what are you gonna do?
Yeah, so like his card said he enlists our help. He didn't enlist our help. He just asked Fig, here's a thing your wife gave me, and died. So yeah, I didn't really tell the exact truth with him. I was completely in shock when and that's why I think the Thestral thing was quite important, because when I first saw it, I was like, he's apparated away, because they made such a point when he first gets there. I've apparated to tighter spaces in this. And then when you're like, oh my God, the Thestrals, he's dead. So yeah, I completely thought he's apparated away, it's fine. But when you see the Thestrals, it's like, oh wow, yeah, he's just straight up dead.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a
sorry, quickly, sorry. I was actually watching the original trailer from 2020 the other day, and the opening of that is that carriage arriving safely at Hogwarts.
Yes.
Which clearly, just doesn't. I was like so shocked myself. I'm like, oh yeah, well that doesn't happen in the game.
No.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Sly?
No, I was just gonna make a mention, but then I had to stop myself because I know Ben and Limerick have nothing. It's about the ending.
Okay, so let's do that. So you two, whatever you want to do, if you want to mute or leave, or now, like, I can write in the private chat when we're done. If you don't want to leave, if you do want, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, that'll be great. I'll be here. I'll just
okay.
We'll talk about the same thing.
You good? Okay, so I'll write in the private chat over there when we're back, and then you guys.
All right,
and we'll wrap up, eventually, as well. Awesome. All right, you two, go ahead. There we go. Muted and out. Okay, gentlemen. I got a big bone to pick with the ending. So I'll let you guys go first, and then I'll rant at the end, and we'll bring these two gents back. Okay, so which ending did you pick? And then what did you think of it? And what did you think when you found out there was more? And just so we're kind of clear, there's really my biggest problem, to kind of foreshadow it, there's two endings, although there's really three choices. And so hopefully everybody kind of gets what I mean with that, right?
Can you do me a favor? I genuinely don't mind the spoiler. I've picked the ending where I wanted to release the magic. I don't know what the other endings are.
Okay, so yeah,
can you explain them?
So good ending, right, is that nothing, you enclose it, and that's where Fig will come back. That's, I believe, the only way Fig, right, helps you at the end. Well, you're shaking your head, Nate. If you choose the good ending,
he doesn't come back. He just defends you for a second.
Well, that's what I mean. You see it, but if you choose the bad ending or endings plural, he doesn't do anything.
You never see him again.
You never see him again after that dragon slams.
So what happened? So in my ending, the rock came down. He disappeared.
Yes,
and he's dead. In your ending, he's dead right there.
So what happens in the other ending with him?
He tried to defend you.
After you beat Ramrock, he's on the ground over there. Fig almost, almost like Darth Vader style, when he's half dead, limps back and casts to contain the magic. And then after about 20 seconds, just falls to the floor. And then you give him Miriam's wand. And then he's like, Miriam, and dies.
So he gets like one last little talk with you. He's got a more heroic death, right? And he helps you enclose the magic. Whereas in any other ending, which there's really only one, that the dragon slamming, I do think that's an issue because that being his last scene, good or bad, and I think is pretty. Sad.
I had a theory straight away afterwards in my live stream. I was like, he's not dead. He is coming back in the next one because we didn't see him die. So, and in that end, I was adamant he's not dead. He's not dead. He's somehow survived. But I was adamant that obviously all the stuff that had dispersed had somehow gone into him, and he was going to be the bad guy in the next game.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's what my thought was on that, but I didn't realize that you actually physically saw him dead.
Yeah, he's dead. And so the good ending's that, and then the bad ending. Now the bad ending, what I think is upsetting people online is choosing to use the magic for a negative reason, or choosing to use the magic and learning from Isadora still gets you the bad ending. That's why there's 3 choices, but only 2, because both those choices are bad. Even though the one about learning from the past mistakes is not necessarily. So, okay, so now with all that being said, what did you guys choose and think?
So as I said, I chose the I wanted to use a power ending because I was going through like a kind of bad-ish playthrough. So I said I wanted to use a power. For me, that I thought the ending was great personally.
Well, okay.
And I know a lot of people don't.
Well, when you say ending, I loved the Great Hall speech. I loved the House Cup. Those were that's actually what emotionally, not teary-eyed, but that's what got me. The Ranrock dragon, Ranrock being alive, dead, they don't tell you. I thought that was horrible. But the speech was great. I see
the ending as the whole of the last sequence in my eyes. And like when we go down there and like Fig's like, right, we're gonna sort this out, and you get down there and then all of a sudden there's just like hundreds of, and I was like, oh my god, how are we gonna, this is gonna be like absolutely brutal. And then we get like the Order of the Phoenix moment from I absolutely loved it. All of the characters that I thought were just really cool, and like especially considering a lot of them have got like ministry backgrounds, and that they can handle themselves and all that sort of stuff. I absolutely loved that sequence when they all just appeared, started doing their own little bits of combat, and even like I'm sure some of you probably missed it because I'm sure I missed a couple of them. But like as you're playing through the fight scenes, they were having like fights in the background, and I noticed a couple of them were having fights in the background, like in different things. So I really can't wait to play that sequence again to see if I notice like, oh, there's Shah over there fighting this guy, and like I just thought I genuinely really enjoyed it as a video game because the Ranrock Dragon thing doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's a video game, so you need a big bad boss that's going to have 3 forms, that's going to have a specific attack pattern. Like it's just what's done with boss battles, and I've played a lot worse boss battles than that, and for me, I mean they could have done it different, but how they've genuinely, can you give me a massively better version of that final boss battle? Because as soon as he did that, like it ruled out just AKing him, it ruled out, it made it an actual boss battle. Like more than any of the other fights in that game, it was a boss battle, and you needed to actually specifically, like I went in there and I did not prepare. I had, for that whole last battle, I had 1 Wiggenweld, and I had 2 cabbages and 1 venomous tentacular, and I had to literally be so on point to try and make my dodges count and everything count. And there's not been one battle in the game that was like that. So for me, I thought the ending was perfect. I loved the boss battle. It was a proper boss battle. That's how a boss battle should be. The Order of the Phoenix moment was fantastic, and then the speech at the end was just, topping off and made you really think, yeah, okay, that's great, and I really respect that character, even though I didn't think he was dead at the time.
What do you think's canon?
I kind of hope that the bad one's canon. I say the bad one, but like releasing it, I kind of hope that one is canon, because if that is canon, then it's released and there's consequences for the next game. I know there's consequences like that they could be someone else going for it, but then the next game would be very samey. Whereas if you've released it, then there's a different consequence because it's now out and available for other people to tap into, and there could be a lot more sort of different people tapping into it rather than just one person trying to specifically find the same thing that we had in this game. So that's the one I would prefer to go to, and then in that one also potentially Fig could still be alive.
So I picked the good ending, the good, which I had a couple problems with and I'll try to get through them quick here. First, there was no real consequence either way. You got to the same reaction. You got to the same house cup. No one looked at you differently. Blah blah blah. That kind of goes back to what. Yeah, all six that were jumping around you.
Yeah.
I think the difficulty scaling from every other boss to that final boss was a problem, because if there were more bosses like that, it would have felt more like genuine that this boss is that hard, but the other bosses you could just AK and get out of, which I think they should have kind of eliminated you using AK, because the other thing I did was during Cassandra Mason's battle, which I don't know who hasn't played it on PlayStation, I just kept using Imperio.
Yeah.
And I would just stand there. I think I actually have recording. I might be able to show you guys sometime of me just Imperioing her and just like standing. And then Imperio and then just standing. Like I broke the battle doing that. So I think those kind of broke it. But my last like real big complaint about it is the whole canon thing. And I think it doesn't matter for this game, but for future games, kind of breaking the canon with letting you pick, and then now if they're going to do a sequel to this game in this time period, they have to pick one.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't really give yourself much room to play with there, because now one of them is going to be canon, and you can't carry over your character now. So now you run into the issue of, do I have to relearn all the spells, or am I going to have all the spells? Am I going to have AK at the beginning when I didn't learn it in the last game? It just like brings in a whole bunch of weird video gamey things that just didn't really make sense. But the ending wasn't bad if you count the ending as the House Cup ceremony.
Yeah.
But the other ending, I thought it was just kind of like, okay, that's it.
Can I just, so if they did the good, like they could do the same, because obviously a lot of it escaped during the fight scene, so they could obviously just play on that element of it, of during the fight all of this stuff has escaped and you've only tracked part of it, or you've released it all and there's still some, so they could play on that and have it both technically be canonical, if you know what I mean. So
what about Ranrock? Because that's what actually
Yeah.
infuriated me, that he's moving the last time you see him. They cut, nobody mentions him, nobody
Is he?
talks. He could be
Yeah.
arrested, he could have died
Yeah.
there. There's
So,
nothing, period.
So,
Yeah.
He's moving his shoulder. He's
yes,
almost
he's doing that.
crawling.
Yeah.
And then a cut, and that's good or bad. And then Weasley
Oh.
doesn't tell you, thanks
No,
for helping
yeah.
us arrest him. Thanks for
So that-
killing him. You mentioned that with Rookwood, which, by the way, Rookwood also was pretty pathetic. But
Terrible.
the Ranrock thing just really, how could you do that? That is one of the most egregious. The DLC thing to fix it. Those are some of the worst examples in game. You never want to lump yourself in with that group.
I didn't notice him moving. That's quite
He was moving.
interesting.
Yeah.
The only other thing I just wanted to say, Nate, as well, is the only other bosses we had similar to that were obviously the Guardians at the end of each of the things. Like they were kind of like boss battles, but they weren't as, we couldn't AK them. They were like similar.
I will tell you, those bosses in difficulty were significantly easier. I did the 100 hit combo on one of those bosses.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Like I just
Yeah.
spammed them. And I was like, I'm not like, they're throwing something at me. I'm dodging 100 hit combo. Like, I couldn't do that on Ranrock. I'm telling you that much.
Ranrock was a beast.
I went in there with like no Wiggenweld potions, and I was like, oh crap, this is a lot harder than the rest of the game.
Yeah. So I mean, in my case, right? I fall back to what. So I love Elden Ring, right? I'm a big Souls person. Love the game. And we all, if you have played Elden Ring, the bosses are very much tiered, right? 1, 2, and 3, sometimes even 4. So going into what Nate said, going into the Ranrock battle, going like, oh, okay, it's just gonna be like another Rookwood. It's just gonna be like another Harlow. It's just gonna be another Colossus giant. And then it wasn't. And then it was what I wanted in a way for all of the other main bosses, right? That tiering of the bosses, right? You not just one, like how easy you know, it would have been if they had made like Rookwood and Animagus, right? Because they had other animagi in like throughout the story, right? Uh, or anything like that, like conjure up something. Like there easily could have been uh, a tiered fight for the main bosses, as opposed to a 2-minute fight with basically all of them except the giants, if you will, and the and Ranrock, right? I like the Ranrock battle. After I realized, okay, yeah, it's a 3-tier boss. Got it. Okay. um the scenes that led up to it, right, with the professors coming, like Last Marauder, that was out of this world.
Yeah, that
That
was good.
was amazingly done. Like Sharp coming in, exposing, that was amazing, right? The close-up shot and everything else. And then the whole I chose the bad ending, so when I rock falls, everyone dies type of thing.
But
Fig
did you
dies.
choose the selfish bad ending or the
Yes,
righteous?
I did the selfish.
Okay.
So when I look, so it's funny because Rock falls, right? He's dead, and we not even so much as like blank. We just, okay, let's move on, and like we carry on. That was a big miss for me. Like even if I'm like choosing, like, no, I want this power for myself. That's basically like what I chose.
Yeah.
I expected something other than Rock falls, everyone dies, no one cares, death in a way. Um, in the battle with Ranrock, having us basically cast the spells that we've learned, right, to weaken the opponent. I thought that was a really cool idea, right, to allow us to get a little closer and go ahead and cast it. So
Yeah.
I loved the scenes. What happened from the very beginning, of the quest all the way until Fig dies and we make our decision and everything else. Um, Canon, here's the thing. I don't think there's going to be a sequel.
Definitely
And
makes it more in question, I think,
and
than ever
and
before.
and for precisely these points that we're talking about, right? And this and I'm tying this with my dislike with the main quest, right? Because they didn't explain all of those things that I mentioned earlier. I don't think there is going to be a sequel, so I don't think there will be an opportunity to explain those things. Therefore, I disliked it. And the reason why I don't think there's going to be any other sequel to this storyline, right, is precisely for what you guys said, right? The 3 different choices that we had, the whole Ranrock thing, no one really talking about, even at the ceremony, no
Yeah.
one even talking about any of the things except like the fact that Fig had died, right? I really enjoyed that moment. Don't get me wrong. Like that was phenomenal. But hopefully you guys are understanding, and chat as well, understanding where I'm coming from with the disconnect
Yeah.
that I had with the main story as far as that's concerned.
So yeah, I'll do agree with a lot of what Sly said. One thing I just want to pick up on first is just before the ending about final trial, the Graphorn thing. Just we got to use it for like 10 minutes before the final mission. It felt like a really weird thing to add. I don't think I've ever used the Graphorn, even when exploring after the game. I just thought it was a really.
Do you think the third one should have been the final because it was so much better than all
Yeah,
the
yeah.
others?
Like the fourth
The
trial was
third
literally
trial was
you.
great.
The third trial. No one's mentioned that yet. I know we haven't been asked, but yeah, I think Sly. I mean, I know you made a video, Alex. Definitely one of the best missions of the game,
Yeah.
if not the best. I'd say Sebastian's final mission might be up there as well, just because of the story and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
just wanted to add about like the Graphorn thing, like how they premiered it in the Brazil thing. You feel like it should be unlocked a lot earlier in the game than it is. And yeah, in terms of the ending, I chose the good ending, keeping it locked away, keeping it safeguarded. I'd share it with others as time went on. As Professor Fig said, it's good to trust others. Yeah, as soon as I saw Ramrock turn into a dragon, I was like, oh, this is so video gamey. I've just come out of playing God of War Ramrock. When you fight Odin, he just stays as his normal self, still quite powerful. And I feel with this ancient magic he's absorbed, Ramrock, even as a goblin, can be super powerful. Do you need to turn him into this weird dragony thing? And as such as like a stickler for Harry Potter lore, I was like, oh, this wouldn't happen in Harry Potter. You know, you wouldn't just run into this big ball and come out a dragon. So I didn't like that. I like the fight in general, like everyone else has said. I think it's quite it's a lot more difficult with the jump up. And yeah, I feel like we're all very underprepared. I went in with one Wigging Weld. Should have gone up to room requirement beforehand. Like last Marauder, I got excited over little scenes beforehand. And yeah.
Okay.
Go on.
No, go ahead. Whenever you're done.
Oh yeah. No, it's okay. And yeah, it's just a good fight. And the ending, yeah. Again, I agree with Sly in terms of I've been quite adamant. I don't think this ending set up for a sequel at all. I think it's quite almost storybooky how it's wrapped up. The Great Hall scene's beautiful. Really like how it's done. Gave me Goblet of Fire, Chamber of Secrets. And yeah, I was really expecting him to be taught with Professor Weasley when you go to her office as like the final main mission.
Yeah.
To see, Ramrock's being arrested. Well done. You've been amazing. Or Ramrock's dead. Whatever. But no, just none of that was wrapped up, and it felt so unfinished. I did not like that at all. I do still feel he was just trapped under all the rubble, and that whole area is destroyed. What I do wish was the ending, though, because I feel Rockwood should be in this ending, in this final thing. When you're in the mine and Loggot gets killed, I feel that should have been included in this final ending. So Rockwood turning on Ramrock, so when you Varkadavra, is it? That should have all been in the Hogwarts part, not in this little separate mine section. I feel like that should have been included in the last area. And then, you've got Rockwood. It's like a three-way fight, basically.
Yeah.
You, Rockwood, and Ramrock. I feel that would have just made it a lot better because, like I alluded to earlier, I was trying to spoil it for the other two. The Rockwoods.
I don't know what
awful.
they were thinking with Rookwoods.
It's
And Harlow's being better.
Yeah,
is laughable. That happened.
Harlow's story in general has more. So I feel the main story is targeted at Ramrock rather than Rockwoods, and Natty's story is all dedicated to getting Harlow brought down. Yeah. So I feel Harlow has a more of a story in this game than Rockwood does. Yeah. Which is just really strange.
And he's cool. I liked Rookwood every scene. Yeah. I agree with you that him turning on Ranrock is what we called like 3 weeks ago. Like I was so happy. And then, but he dodged. I mean, he literally he goes and dodges him. Yeah. So that was stupid. And then, Rookwood being ended, and mine was glitched. If you guys see the footage, because I've put it in some of my videos, there's like a barrel that's like floating. So when you do the final little thing and he dies, a barrel is kind of blocking my view of him. And that happened like live when I was playing it. And then I literally didn't know if he died because it was kind of a glitch, but he, exploded. And then, like you mentioned, when you go to Fig, I had to do what I had to do. He's like, no biggie. I'm like, no way you guys are saying this right now. Yeah. There's no way these are the lines.
Yeah. It's just this is the one thing I agree with all of you on is that is the biggest letdown for me in this game is the battle with him and his input into it. That would be my only thing that I honestly genuinely would not like complain about as such. The rest of it I've been really happy with. I genuinely have even like for me personally, like the Grapphorn mission was one of my favorite missions just because of the music and the experience. Like, has anyone watched How to Train Your Dragon?
Yes. Yes.
So when the Grapphorn comes up to you and you sort of have like the weird like How to Train Your Dragon moment, and then the music, I swear they've stolen music from How to Train Your Dragon. If you go back and play that sequence, it literally sounds like Test Drive from How to Train Your Dragon. It is really peculiar. But yeah, like the Rookwood thing for me, I completely agree. They should have made it. Even if you was going to have just a normal wizard duel with him and beat him, there should have been 3 stages or something like that. And in between those stages, you could have had some like cutscene moments to make it a bit like like a Dumbledore versus Voldemort style battle.
And I'll be honest, if this
just make
was
it a bit
like
more cinematic.
Yeah, if this was 10 years ago, they could have done QuickTime events and just made it like a cutscene. But it's so unpopular nowadays. But I really think, like, if you think of the God of War 3 boss fights with Poseidon and all that, that would have worked perfectly as a, but that takes so much away from you that I get it. And the thing with the Ranrock, I agree with you. The dragon fight at its core is, I think, really good. I like even the orbs having to use the specific spells. That's really cool. But yeah, transform, it's such a video game stupid thing where he's the villain and then you make him something else and you're not actually fighting him, you're fighting something else at the end. That's such a cliche. And you didn't have to do it. I think they did it because Harlow and Rookwood had you kill them both the same way, or you don't kill Harlow.
Okay.
But it's the same
Okay.
You already see the goblins getting slightly bigger when they attack. Just make him
bigger.
Slightly bigger.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a dragon.
Going back to the connecting of the wands as well, to have that only twice in the game, I just feel it's really so late on as well. The fearsome foes, whatever they were called in the game, the 17, 18 people you have. Why not have that for all them then? It's a quick time event, but yeah, it just felt strange. It was just for Rookwood and then for Harlow, and they both had 2 different endings, even though they both were using a Barcadabra. Rookwood died.
Well, I have some. So here's the thing, right? I agree with what everybody's saying about Rookwood and Harlow, and how they should have been, tiered. There should have been a side, like a whole quest just for that. I mean, we had quests for our relationship. Like, why couldn't we have one for this main baddie, right? I actually came into the game hoping that Rookwood's story was going to be like a big focus of the game, and I thought it was going to be, because you travel everywhere and everyone talks about this guy. Everyone talks about him. Everyone talks about Harlow. They paint him as such an awful person, just so we, and then we separate. We arrive. Well, we operate. We arrive somewhere, and then he's done after 2 minutes. Here's the thing: as far as the priori incantatum that happened twice, right? That is such a lore breaking thing there. Priori cantatum. Maybe they could have said, yeah, okay, Rookwood has the same wand, right? The same materials that we do. Okay, we could argue that. And then Harlow too. Really did not like that. I thought that was a poor choice to add the priori incantatum button mashing event that happened there.
I don't think it was priori incantatum. I think it was just the wands connected.
But how?
What would you call it?
I don't really know, because Voldemort and Dumbledore do it as well in the films. I think it's just more of a film and cinematic element.
But that's
wands weren't connected.
Yeah,
they weren't.
so
that never happened.
Priori incantatum expels the last spells. That never happened. So it was just the wands connected.
But that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking, Les Marauder. Did they just omit that, or are they just doing a film thing? Because that doesn't happen that's not a book thing.
No.
So if you have to ask these questions, it breaks lore. Let's just say that out there. If you're asking these type of questions, it's either 1, bad writing, 2, lore breaking, or 3, just a poor overall decision, because we don't know what to call it. Like a lot of people,
I think it was just fan service. It's just a one connection.
Yeah.
If you watch Fantastic Beasts, even in that as part of the fight scene between Dumbledore and Grindelwald, like they have a moment where their wands connect. It's just a cinematic version of a wand fight. That's all it is.
Yeah, so it happens a lot in Deathly Hallows Part 2 as well. If you watch the Battle of Hogwarts throughout that, a lot of and other guys, a lot of it happens there.
I get all that, right? But I thought that they were very much basing what they were doing a lot, like from the books and the lore, And again, this is something so minuscule. Like, I don't want to spend too much time because there's and that's the other thing too, right? We've been talking a lot about like the bad
Mhm.
parts of it. I just want to make sure that everybody understands this game is really, really good. Okay, it is everything. Well, I shouldn't say everything that I expected, but it's an 8 out of 10 for a reason, right? That we could nitpick in so many different things,
What
game
about Wired's
wise,
review?
lore wise, um, but there are so many amazing things that I would also like to talk about, uh, from the game's perspective also. um I just want to make sure that everybody understands that I didn't hate this game. Just I am talking about like small things that I wish were different. Um, but like when you actually put them all together, it we talk about the bosses. These are really the main things that everybody disliked, right? Well, a lot of us have the bosses, the story, but there's a lot of great things like combat and the world and the vivariums and the immersion. Some of the side quests were amazing. So I just want
No,
to
yeah. I think
put
when
that
it
out
comes
there.
to my channel or my live streams, maybe I bring the controversy out of people. I like the fact that you guys are defending that you like it because of the negativity that we've said about, which is what I do so often, and people get mad at me. They say stick with your thoughts on
Oh
it.
no, I
No, I get what
there
you're
are
I get what you're
things.
saying. It
There
comes off a
are
certain way,
Oh no,
and
no. I just think that these are things that needed to be said, honestly, and we're here to all to share our opinions, and these are things that I definitely will talk about in my review, of video also, because I will do one.
yeah.
But it's a good game. It's a good game. I wish, like any game that I play, right? Even Elden Ring, even Witcher, even God of War, there are things that I wish they could have done better. There are things I was like, okay, well that broke, lore, mythology, and everything else. Um, but does that mean that the game is bad? No, it doesn't. Right?
Mhm.
I just because I've been nitpicking certain things. Just want to make
Yeah.
sure everybody understands that although I dislike these aspects of the game, there are a lot of good things about the game also. So
Well, I think it also kind of comes because, like, when you talk about it, and it's not to say like the deeper you go necessarily, the worse this game gets. I think in some cases actually is true. But I think when you give like a spoiler free review, or when we're all talking about it non spoiler like, it is a lot of positives because you're kind of doing more surface level stuff. And there is a lot of surface level positives. And then when you get into the nitty gritty, that is the negatives.
yeah.
So I think that's kind of why it comes. And yeah, I agree with you. I hope it doesn't come across like we're going at it. I think by digging deeper, it just tends to happen.
Can I
Welcome
say
back,
one more
Ben
thing?
Lamorak.
Can I say one more
So
thing? And I will keep it completely spoiler free because I know the other guys are back. So,
yeah,
when we was talking about the possibility of like sequels and all that sort of stuff, I think the reason why they've left some bits ambiguous is because they didn't know how this game was going to be perceived because of the controversies around it. So I think that they've done it very intelligently, to the fact that actually there is some quite easy paths that they could follow to make a sequel from what they've left open, and to explain more about certain elements that haven't been explained. I think they've left that as easy opens that they can move on from, but at the same time they have sort of done it in a slightly enclosed bubble, in the way that if the game wasn't perceived well because of the controversies or whatever, then it is just a closed story that people can enjoy.
yeah. So
Can I
let's
say something real
yeah, go ahead,
quick?
go ahead.
I think to Sly's point, um, for a lot of us, when I'm watching a review of a game or a discussion like this, I want to know what's wrong with it, because like, you could easily just sit there and gush about how many things are good,
Mhm.
but things that pull me away from games are what's bad. So when we're sitting here talking about like everything that's wrong with the game, it's not that we hate it. It's that like these things might detract you from playing it if you
Mhm.
haven't already, or
Right.
XYZ. And
Right.
to this, it's, in my opinion, and I didn't give a score at the beginning. It's probably an 8. Because in my opinion, this game is a good video game not a good like experience. And the way I'm differentiating those is the experiences that I've played, and I might have played more video games than all of you guys. I've got 500-600 games played. Like experiences are with friends, and this is a single player game. In terms of just like a game, it's good, and that's what we wanted it to be. So we're not trying to be like super negative about it.
Yeah. So let's go down the line, and we'll give our final thoughts on, where we're at with the game. Our feelings about it. Any just final thoughts for the live stream?
I don't know. I'm just looking forward to finishing the story, and since I'm feeling a bit sick, I feel that's gonna be my weekend. Just finishing the game, doing nothing much else. I don't know. I'm more like have questions for you guys. Like, what are you seeing if there is like a sequel or a DLC? What would you want to see in it? Because I'm just curious from your perspective, since you guys finished it already.
Can we say it without spoiling it though? Is the issue?
Oh,
I'm asking them. I don't know if
I mean, I can.
I could. Yeah.
I probably could do a short answer.
Yeah.
I don't want a sequel to the game. I want them to make something different. I want them to make like an Ilvermorny or something that we don't know much about, and see how good people will rate it. Because I think a lot of people that played this game rated it highly because of the world and not necessarily the gameplay. So if you take the same game or maybe improved game, put it in something we don't know or we don't love,
it's lower.
Is it going to be as good?
I think this game would be a lot lower for scores.
Right, exactly. Without Hogwarts.
Yeah.
And I think this game shouldn't get DLC Quidditch. I think Quidditch needs to be its own game. And that would be where I would probably have more fun.
Okay.
Sly, you're muted.
Okay, so for me, I would say this. I for the reasons we've talked about, I don't think there's going to be a sequel. I think this is it for the story. I do think they will proceed with other games. I do think that will happen, right? How can it not, right? I mean, so much money. This game has literally rekindled the Wizarding World fire again.
Yeah.
It brought everything back to the spotlight, and I absolutely love Avalanche and everyone who made this happen. 1000%, right? Because we needed this, right? After Fantastic Beasts, and say what you will, we needed this. This was a must for this world to return to its proper place, and I cannot thank them enough for that. But I do think they will move on with other stories, and I'm open for that. One that I really, really hope that they dab on would be the origins of it all, with the four founders, and Hogwarts, and the, potentially even the introduction of Merlin being one of the early. Maybe we at that point we play as Merlin, right? One of the early students of Slytherin, and actually going back to the Chamber of Secrets, right? Because Salazar uses the Chamber of Secrets to teach, his most trusted students, right? The dark spells and everything else, and it would be such a cool thing to do, to get back to that. Do I think they're gonna do another old game? Old, I mean, older era, if you will. I doubt it, just because they made Hogwarts Legacy in the 1800s. I don't think they're gonna do an early one. But I would also be very happy to do like a Last Marauder. Sorry, not a Last Marauder. The Marauders.
Starring me.
Yeah,
I know, right? That would be awesome, mate.
Inside information.
Right? The Marauder story would be phenomenal. But yeah, absolutely loved the game. Loved what it did to the world, and it was super fun. Very, very enjoyable. I had a blast playing it, and I can't wait to see what's in store. With that said, though, I do need to go, because I do need to get on a broom and pick up my little auras from school. So
sounds good, man. Thanks so
love
much
you
for being
all.
here.
Love
Use
you
a
all.
flu
Thanks
flame.
for having me here.
Another
Right?
adventure.
Thanks for having me here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Mischief managed.
care.
Bye,
See you
everyone.
there, but-
Bye.
So, are we answering the question, Alex's question, or answering the question about the sequels?
I think
Both.
both.
Both. Okay. I think. I don't think a sequel will get anything too crazy like a Marauders or whatever. I think, again, I don't know the ending, so I'm not sure how it ends off from the perspective of how you could do a sequel. But I think they'll probably stay pretty safe just from a business perspective and stick with relatively the same timeline, just in case people wanted to create their character and continue the thing. I think that would sell better than like, oh, let's jump around to this time period. I don't necessarily think that's a good thing, but I think it's just what's going to happen. And as for the game, I think for me, they could do some very simple things that I think are potentially likely just to make it drastically better. I think if they said like functional dorm beds, sitting, some sort of like class schedule or something. I think all those things, like some sort of like secondary enemy interaction in the open world outside of just the camps and the wandering people. I think all of that, maybe a few new spells, all of that would get it pretty close to sort of what I imagined when this game came out. And then of course, official companion support. Yeah, if they had those things, I'd be really happy. And then a sequel sort of added more stuff.
Yeah.
The sequel could be the perfect Wizarding World game in my perspective.
So it's gonna be out of order. Yeah, I think I'll go next.
You go.
Yeah. So I'm 100% sure there'll be a sequel. Personally, I like the sales of this game have guaranteed there's going to be definitely another game, because Warner Brothers will demand it. If you're making this sort of money, you'll be demanding another game. So they will be making another game. They probably started work on it. A small part of their team have probably started work on the story already now. If they didn't have a story already. I personally think it will be a direct sequel. They've started us in the 5th year. Why wouldn't they finish off? Even if the next game is year 6 and 7, like, you know, and there's only going to be one sequel, so they can go on to do other stories. I think they will do it, and I think they've left it as ambiguous enough an ending that yes, we can continue this story, and there is ways to incorporate both endings to progress the story moving forward. In regards to what I would like to see in like DLC and that sort of stuff, I would like them to just do like expansions on places, which would then include potentially like more villains and maybe one spell per expansion or something like that. So maybe, you know, a lake expansion, so you've got the underwater element, so you can explore some of the lake and just see that would be really cool. Or do like a Forbidden Forest expansion, because the Forbidden Forest for me was a lot smaller than I anticipated it being. Like from what you read in the books, when you go, like when Hagrid takes them to meet Grawp, they seem to be walking for like hours to get to Grawp. Like the whole Quidditch match takes place in the time they walk to Grawp and walk back. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I would like to see like a Forbidden Forest expansion pack, and it just opens up the Forbidden Forest more. Maybe there's a storyline with centaurs or something like that, and then you can learn like the Incarcerate spell or something like that. You know, like just add extra bits in the DLC, so just make the map slightly bigger and just add extra elements in that sort of sense. And then along with it, I agree with what some of you are saying, like, you know, add sit-in, add Wizard's Chess, add, you know, just little things like that. But most importantly, add a photo mode, because the fact like that I'm having so much fun doing it on the PC. Why can't everyone do that? Because it is great. But this game for me is incredible, and I don't think it got worse as it went on. The third trial was one of my favorite missions I've ever played in any game. The Grap moment for me nearly had me like welling up just because of the emotion of it and the music and everything like that. And I think the ending was just incredible. So I love this game so much.
I will say your picture of like the Dementor Lake from Prison of Azkaban, one of my favorite photos seeing of this game so far. I loved it.
Great.
Oh, I loved it. Your picture's brilliant.
Cheers.
Jealous on PS5, not being able to do stuff like that. No, in terms of a sequel, I said this when I first came on this, like when I came on the channel 6 months ago, whatever it was now. I always wanted this to be like an anthology series where we visit the 1800s, and for the next game we go back to Trials and Torment, or we go to the Fountains of Hogwarts, quite similar to what Sly said. I would love that. I sort of disagree in terms of this ending, it's quite nicely wrapped up in terms of it doesn't lead on to a sequel directly, I don't think, in terms of how the Harry Potter series we've led on to sequels, etc., etc. So yeah, I'd love to see if we're going to continue anthology, go back to A Trials of Torment, go back to the first people of Hogwarts, or the Marauders, whatever, or even further into the future after Harry Potter. So in 2024, whatever, whenever the game will come out, 2026, for example, do a story then. I agree with Nate in terms of Quidditch. I've always argued for it to be that good, because I played the Harry Potter games for years. Quidditch has always been awful, except in Quidditch World Cup, where it was a focus game, where all the coding, everything is focused on Quidditch. So keep it to a single game, multiplayer, similar to your Madden, to your FIFA. An actual esports game of Quidditch would be the best Harry Potter game ever be existing. A lot of people say that about Quidditch World Cup. But yeah, in terms of any DLC, I'd like to see, little mini games like Gobstone's Wizard Chess. You actually see, when you finish the game, you can go out into the courtyards and you can see, it almost looks like the Order of the Phoenix style Gobstone games going on. People are playing it. Mm-hmm. So there is people playing it in there. But yeah, just little stuff like Lamrock said, just adding little things. It is hard to say in terms of a DLC, in terms of like an actual story. I wouldn't know what they'd add or do if you were going to add like a story sort of element to a DLC. Maybe even the owls, there's this whole build up to them, but you never take them. So, some challenges quite similar, like the trials. If you did some obstacle courses for owls, that might be fun. Yeah, I'd say that.
What are you gonna say, Ben?
By the way, what did you guys think of those Depulso chambers? Did you all finish them?
They hurt my head.
I spent yesterday.
They're in the castle.
It's a side quest.
I did. So I did the Herodiana's one. It was okay. Then I did the number 2. I spent, I think, 40 minutes trying to figure out the second part of it. They're so difficult. But
number 2 is actually the hardest. Number 3 is easier than number 2, but yeah, number 2 to get us out is it's the worst.
Oh my god, I spent so much time there. I didn't finish it. I didn't finish the whole thing. No, I love them.
Did anyone do I'm probably more speaking to the proper like Harry Potter knowledge nerds, but did anyone do the mission? Well, I think you have to actually to do it as part of Miss Weasley's task, but where you speak to the girl in the library and she just quizzes you on
Yeah.
Oh my god, I loved that so much.
Yeah, I did like that one.
That was so good. I literally did I got to all the hard ones and I got like one wrong and I was fuming. But it was great.
I was sort of disappointed. I got one wrong in the second thing, and she's actually going to the next one. It's like, no, you've got to get them all right before you move on. I want to get them right. I want to know which one. I wanted to get them all right. I was so sad I got one wrong.
What a great quest.
There's moments like that throughout the game that are just super special, So yeah, I guess what I would say, I like the idea of an anthology thing. I think mixing in what Troy had said with what I think, with what you guys have said, it does make the most sense to keep it at Hogwarts, and then you have the option to continue your 6th year for this or pick a different time period. I think to rebuild for a whole different school, 2 issues there. Number 1, a lot of people don't care. That's really where I would lean into. That's an us thing. That is not the 12 million that bought it in the first week. I don't know how much less you would get, but I guarantee you would get less just because it's not Hogwarts. So, and then the second part, I guess, is the assets and how long it takes. And Warner Bros. Obviously financially not doing good at all. And I think Last Marauder said, like, they're gonna they'll send somebody to the studio and demand that you make another game. So, and they'll probably say, we really can't wait 5 to 6 years. Most games take 5 years. Can you get it out in 3 or 4? And the only way you do that is by reusing Hogwarts. Mm-hmm. I think building a whole new school takes it doesn't take too long. It's just too long for them. So
even with that, like if you do a direct sequel, the character models are all the same. Like it's not.
I mean, direct sequel.
The animations are there. The character models there. It is literally just writing a new story.
What I will say,
if they really wanted to, they could potentially push that out in 2 years.
What I will say to
God
keep
of War
it fresh
Ragnarok.
as well.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they make a big deal of it, Hogwarts Legacy as well, how the castle's always changing. You've got so many different models from the movies to pick from. You know, different sort of models. You can actually create a fresher Hogwarts.
Yeah, you can expand it.
Yeah, and you can just go, oh, well, it changes every year, as we explained. You know, like Hogwarts Legacy, you speak to Professor Hecat, it's always changing. So there are other ways to keep Hogwarts fresh rather than going for a completely different school as well.
Yeah. And all the stuff, I think that puts a lot of pressure then on what you have to add. These changes of this morality and consequence and more actual companions, for the love of God, like that stuff then becomes a requirement, at least to me, myself personally, because the game will be a Ragnarok. You'll have the complaints that it looks the same, right? All that kind of jazz, and you have to fill it out. Unlike this game, you got to fill it out to make it worth it. But yeah, I think, Troy had said he thinks 3 years. I think 3 years would be early to me. I always thought maybe 4 at the earliest if you rush them. I'm not demanding it in 2 or 3 years or anything, because that probably doesn't lead to the best game. But when he said 3 years to me, I was shocked, because
you look at Spider-Man. You look at Spider-Man 2.
That's 5 years.
Yeah, they took 4 years for that.
It's 2018.
Right?
Well, 5 by the time it comes out. It'll be 5.
And New York's not that bigger, is it? In going to be in this game, it can't be that different. So yeah, for a whole
Ragnarok was 5. Horizon was 5.
Didn't they do that over 2 different consoles though? So there might be that element to it as well. Whereas if this does come out in 5 years, it's still going to be the same
Ragnarok
hardware.
was 2018, 2022, wasn't it?
Yeah,
well, November of 2022. Well, 4.5. Okay, April.
Yeah, April, November.
Yeah, so 4.5. Yeah,
My
the
thoughts about
console
those,
thing could be an issue.
It went over different hardware though, so yeah, potentially if it's all going to be on the same hardware, then I think there's going to be less of a
true next gen only. You could probably do it in 3.
The next game would drop next gen.
Yeah.
Only
the next game would, other than Switch, depending on how it goes.
When are we getting the new one?
You'll get the Switch. Yeah, the Switch 2 will be out by then.
I mean, the sales tell you there's going to be something from the studio, no matter if it's technically a sequel or not. I mean, they've also said it. They want it to be a franchise, and I know all of us have heard it, but
and it is. I mean, it is. It's literally. It's well said, Les Morales. Like this is a rebirth for the Wizarding World franchise, and definitely they want to follow up to this with not just like possible sequel, but with more stuff like around the Wizarding World, not necessarily this particular story, but it just. For me, like whatever comes next, I hope that everyone who works in this franchise just learned from Avalanche. You just gotta do a good job. You just gotta write a good story. You gotta do the things right and pay respect, and then you're gonna have success from it. It's not about, because this is a proof that the Wizarding World is not just selling itself. You have to make an effort beyond to help this Wizarding World work and just be telling good stories.
To be fair, I can make the argument. I can make the argument that the Wizarding World is the only reason this sold. Like if you took the game, if you took this game, just the base of the game.
Classic Beast failed because of the bad storytelling.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, right, right, but that's not. I mean, they spend time at Hogwarts, but not really. Like this, the world of Hogwarts, the Forbidden Forest, being able to fly a broom sold this game. You look at essentially, there's other games that did. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He said the game didn't sell it. So, like the world didn't sell the game, which.
No, I mean, maybe, I didn't say.
I think a part of the reason it's so good though is because of the different aspects of the Wizarding World that were brought into game mechanics.
100%.
If it was just a random world, it'd be like weird, like Magic 6. Then you wouldn't have any context.
It'd be Forspoken.
The combat in this game though is better. I honestly cannot think of another game that I've enjoyed combat as much, other than maybe the Arkham games.
And it's so unique.
Other than maybe the Arkham games, it's so good.
Okay. 100%,
did you say Anthem?
100% transparent. The combat, flying, and everything in Anthem is good, other than the world, the storytelling, XYZ stuff like that. If you take the straight flying like Iron Man from Anthem or just gunplay and combat, it's fantastic. But since you don't know the world and since you don't know anything that's going on, there's horrible storytelling, it flopped. It's one of the worst games because of that. But the straight gameplay is good.
I think the like the magic, literally, or also just in words of Hogwarts, is that initial barrier. I think I mean, I will be controversial. I think the early reviews, I think they're too high. I actually don't think it's as it should be. And I don't give scores. I hate scores so much. Wired scores, hilarious, all that stuff. But like, you know, it was like an 86 the first day. I think that's too high, and I think it's because if you only play 15, 20 hours, you don't get the full. You have to play
I
more.
think I did that.
That's what a lot of the early review, like IGN gave it a 9. Yes, that was probably one of them. So I kind of would agree. I think it was a good. It eliminated the barrier. You originally or immediately knew you were going to Hogwarts, and that helped. I don't know. It's tough about Hogwarts itself. Did Hogwarts, the school, sell it? Could you do it in a different school and have it work? Because they kind of prove a Fantastic Beasts tried to do, and Fantastic Beasts, I'd like to blame Ezra, Johnny Depp, Warner Bros. Being brain dead, all those things. So this game didn't have that. No. And I think the pitch of like you can live your own, it's your story. I think that really helped it, even though that was a lie.
Yep.
Like that may have been the thing that
just. I mean, how many comments have you seen of like people saying, "I just wanted to go explore Hogwarts," and that's gonna get you sales, and that's why this game is special. And I've said it countless times. As much as I say things about it, it's so special because you can be in Hogwarts. But I think if you removed it, and I know you're saying like, well, what if I removed the biggest part of the game from the game? What would it be? But it's like if you put this game somewhere else, it would be worse because Hogwarts is the biggest selling point.
I think also just the inspiration of the Wizarding World is what drove this game to be so good. I think without that, the team wouldn't have put nearly as much effort.
100%. 100%.
I totally agree with that. Hogwarts is in the Wizarding World, and that fact is very big selling point. But at the end of the day, I still think that if this was a Hogwarts simulator, it wouldn't do as good as it did as a full-on single player. Really like experience. If this was just like a console version of Hogwarts Mystery, it wouldn't do as good as it did.
Well, that game just wasn't good.
No,
exactly.
If this was Hogwarts Bully, if this was Hogwarts Bully, it would sell.
The thing, I understand what you're saying. I really genuinely understand what you're saying.
But is that a sim, Nate?
But you're like saying if we take elves and dwarves and Sauron out of Lord of the Rings, it won't sell as well. Like that's the story of Lord of the Rings. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no, I'm not talking about the story.
Saying. I understand like the reason why this game is doing so well is because it's the Wizarding World. But well, it is the Wizarding World. You can't.
It's like that's like saying if you took out like the Harry Potter books, it wouldn't sell as well if they weren't.
Well, time out.
I want to ask Nate this because I think I get what you mean. I think I'm with you. My example are those Merlin trials. If you do the Merlin trials or the page guides, those are horrendous things in any other game. But because it's in Hogwarts, it's the spells.
But that's how if you put the page guides in Lord of the Rings game and it gives you more lore behind Lord of the Rings, they would still work.
But now it's Lord of the Rings. You just put in a different established franchise. You have to put in a new one.
But it's no different than playing Oblivion and you picking up the books and reading the backstory of the books. It's just giving you backstory.
Okay,
I'm just saying things like the 95 Merlin trials, I think, is kind of an abomination.
But I think people don't like them in this game, really. I mean, if they're really thinking about it.
Wait,
Last Marauder.
Yes.
Hold on. To your point, Hogwarts did exactly what you just said. Hogwarts Legacy. They took out all of the characters that we knew from the Wizarding World, kept the world of Hogwarts, and sold a game. If you took out all of the characters from Lord of the Rings and sold a Middle-earth game, it doesn't do as well. They did that with Shadow of War. They did that with Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah, but that wasn't open.
That was a good game, though.
It doesn't matter if it's good or open. I'm just talking about the fact that his point was if you take away the character, Sauron, which you did with Harry, you took away every character you knew and had the world. If you took out the world and left Harry and everybody in there, the game wouldn't sell as well. The selling point is Hogwarts. Okay. That's the reason the game sold well. If you take that away, this isn't great. It's just the truth of it.
I
that
like
is
where
the
this
game, though,
conversation
isn't it?
is
The-
going. I
You're
just wanted
kinda
to-
taking out
the
the
game
what
is the
makes
game
great
is
and
the
saying it
Wizarding
wouldn't be
World.
great.
That's my argument. Even if you sold me a Harry as an Aura game, and it was a dark,
London.
gritty, in London, dark, gritty Aura game, and you kept the
I
characters
would buy it.
from I'd still buy that game because
Like
it's
2
still
seconds.
part of a franchise.
Okay, yeah,
that I love.
wait, but that's. I agree. We'd all buy it, and it would
Right.
sell like 5, 6, 7. But would it get
Right.
25, 30 million? No.
I
Right.
think it would.
It wouldn't
I
sell
don't.
12
I
million
really
in 2
don't.
No,
weeks.
I don't think it would.
No.
No,
Hogwarts is something not everyone,
And
a lot
that's
of people grew up
and
with.
it is a good question to ask in general. Like, because I'm still trying to figure out. Okay, like can we go beyond Hogwarts at all ever to other schools? Some
Smaller
other
studio, yeah. Them
not
probably
in the
no.
games, but in general, like movies, etc. Can that happen?
I think like a TV show, but not. I think movies. But actually, you see it because they want to redo Harry Potter, right? They're so it's just nostalgia. It's banking on what sells. They know they're having these discussions too. A Telltale game in a different school, I think, would do fine. It would make them a boatload of it would work, but
Not
it wouldn't
near as
reach
much.
this.
But
You know what I mean?
It needs
So
to be done right. If you look at Star Wars,
Mhm.
like the Star Wars we knew initially was obviously the originals, and that was based around these people. And then people wanted to know more about Star Wars, so they wanted to know about when the Jedi was, around. So they released the prequels. So that obviously did incredibly well. Whatever your thoughts are on those, and then after that they released the absolutely atrocious prequels. But people still want to know more about it. So there's now the TV series are exploring different elements of like the Mandalorian, and
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
if it's done right, then the Wizarding World can be expanded in so many ways because there's so much lore
True.
behind
And I
it.
so agree about that. I
Karen,
totally agree about that.
But there's something to be said about that. They're keeping the world. In all of the Star Wars stuff, they're keeping the world and just changing the characters. And that's
Yeah.
kind of the point I'm making is that Hogwarts is selling.
Yeah.
Hogwarts is the reason why this is selling.
Absolutely. But like I'm trying to see how could that be done, like, or if it can even be done without
It's
it.
hard to sell 20 million copies of a
No,
game.
it's-
This game has sold 12 in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If you
Go
think
ahead and
about-
look up the list of
Okay.
20
but,
million.
If they did a DLC for this game, and it was a DLC, and it was released as the Little Gazelle, and it was a DLC set in Wagadu before Natty came over, and we got to see that story play out, and they just introduced it slowly via that, and then it gave us a little bit of war building around there, and they introduced some really cool new creatures and new magic that we hadn't seen before, and just slowly drip feed us some more information about these other locations. I think that then yes, it would still sell if you started drip feeding it initially before then opening it up to like a full game.
A
I
DLC, yeah.
don't think so. I still don't, because I think the beauty of this game, the reason it's sold 12 million, is for just walking around Hogwarts, walking around the open world, and that's appealed to non-gamers. I'd buy the pitch you gave of Aura Harry in London, no Hogwarts at all, but that does not appeal to a non-gamer. It's sort of third-person action adventure shooter sort of thing, taking down dark wizards. The reason I get Nate's point, Hogwarts, just walking around that appeals to your 35-year-old, even the non-traditional gamer, a 35-year-old woman who's got an Xbox One, a Switch, who can just buy it and walk around Hogwarts. And they grew up with the books. I think that's what Nate's point is trying to get at, in sort of just going around Hogwarts is what's selling this game to a lot of non-gamers. And anything else would not.
But
I appreciate what you're saying. I really do. I do agree with you. It helped this game sell so much more. But
he loved the
at the
discussion
same
so
time,
much.
he's been watching. He wants to chip in. At the same time, I don't think it's Hogwarts that's selling it. I think it's the Wizarding World that's.
Here's the point.
yeah.
Sure. But here's the point. Peter Kenneth, you can use him as an example. Probably the biggest like Hogwarts Wizarding World creator there is. And I know there's the Super Carlin Brothers, XYZ, all these other creators. He now, the Potter Collector, for those of you who don't know, is streaming a video game because of Hogwarts and Hogwarts Legacy. If this was a Harry Potter horror game, I'm not sure he would have went out and bought a whole Elgato set. I'm not sure he would have been playing like on stream, stuff like that. Just to be able to walk around the world for him as someone who's like a huge creator is the reason why he's doing that, and whether that's
Yeah.
just Hogwarts or the Forbidden Forest or XYZ.
But I think, and they're also, without throwing numbers, because that's the whole thing that I'm thinking of. I agree with Last Marauder that, like, because when you say sell, it will sell. Yeah, but like we don't know the actual. So I'd love to know what they think internally. If Hogwarts sells, because here's the thing. Here's what I predict, and I've predicted this for like a year and a half. They'll have other studios do other games, and not all those games will be in Hogwarts. So there's your proof. Then that'll prove a couple things. It'll prove, number one, you can do it without Hogwarts. But number two, those games will not sell as well. Not saying they won't sell.
100%.
They'll still sell 5-10 million, which is still above most games. But it will not beat Hogwarts. Because Hogwarts, I would agree with that. Hogwarts is the thing that gives it that extra 5 million. You know what I mean? It's not like...
no, I agree with that. I do agree with that. Yeah. But I still think if anybody's interested in the Wizarding World and there is a game set anywhere in the Wizarding World, people will buy it, regardless of if they're gamers or not, because it would be expanding 100%. On that world.
Yeah.
It's the sales. Like, people are, and I'm not saying you guys here, but people are oblivious to like video game sales. Like, everyone thinks every game hits 20 million.
Yeah.
Hitting 20 million's hard. Hitting 50 million or 40, like a lot of Nintendo games do, is really freaking hard.
Yeah.
And you're 100% right. Metroid, the most recent Metroid, just passed like 3 or 4 million. It's been out for a year or two. So it's like, that's a huge franchise for video games. But when you talk about the Wizarding World, 100% Alex is right. It gives you that extra 5, maybe even 10 million just being in Hogwarts, which is, all of us would buy it. I don't think any of us would miss a dark horror game, a Nazi DLC, whatever. But for your general population, it's, I don't know.
This guy, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Majeika has a great point. People can now walk around Hogwarts, so they buy another game to also walk around Hogwarts.
Ooh.
So even if there's a sequel, it wouldn't necessarily sell super well just because it's Hogwarts, because people can walk around Hogwarts now.
You probably got to do what you want, Lamorak, with you have to add a little bit of that sim life, because now you have to really make people feel you are that student. That's how you do it, I think.
And also, I don't remember who mentioned this, but please let them just invent more beasts. There's just so few of them. Just think of anything, just invent new.
Also expand the inventory for the vivariums. 12 is too low.
Please.
Also, just the gear limits. Like, oh my word.
Do you know one thing I just wanted to add? This is really random and off topic. Let me just have a button that I said just lock my outfit, what I look like. Just don't change my outfit if I put a new thing. Just let me look like I want to look like.
Yeah,
and don't
true. Because you have to switch it every time you switch gear instead of just having the.
See, that's an RPG. That's such a modern day garbage RPG thing. And then again, they choose to do it for some times in the game, and then you don't for others. That RPG just screamed, "This is a 2023 RPG." Yeah. That was a good talk. I love controversy. Well, I hope we can do this again, and I think DLC or sequel talk would be the easiest way for us to do it again. But gentlemen, thank you all. Sly came, and maybe he's just here in spirit yelling at us. But no, I really appreciate all of you guys coming all of these times. I mean, I've invited you guys multiple times now, so thank you all so much for being here. Is there any last second thoughts you want to say to the crowd or the future or whatever?
Ad sitting.
Sitting.
No, good.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. You're welcome. I just can't wait to beat the game and see what comes next.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely try to do it again. If they do DLC, that would probably be the closest time to do it. So thank you all so much for watching. Thank all of you guys for being here, and we'll see you all on the next one.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.